Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good whatever time of the day it is. It's Do You Expect to Talk commentary time. As we regenerate into another series, we like to go back to Bond with a commentary episode. I am one of the hosts, Chris, and joining me as ever is our other hosts, Becca and Dave.
Hello.
Good evening, folks.
And today is my choice, I believe.
Yeah.
For some reason, I went for probably not the greatest, but I figured we need to fit in a Roger in there somewhere. So I went for Man with the Golden Gun because I think that'll be good for a laugh.
Yeah, we haven't done this one for a while. This was episode whatever it was, about episode 9 or something like that, and or 10 or something like that, and we haven't thought about it since. Wasn't it? Yeah, so it's quite appropriate. I mean, if you look at it, we've got, a Pierce Brosnan film left, 2 Daniel Craigs, 1 Timothy Dalton, and then we've got something like 4 Sean Connerys and 4 Roger Moores. So it is trying to be kind of aware of what we've got left, yeah.
We're trying to spread them equally or evenly as we can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's not just like Roger, Sean.
Bros.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It does have an effect. We can choose whatever we like, and no one would criticise. But at the same time, if you've just done a Pierce Brosnan, you don't tend to want to do another one straight away. So you do.
It's
try
good, variety is the spice of life.
Yeah.
Well, we've got another 2 Brosnan, haven't we, or just one? Just one Bros?
We've only got Tomorrow Never Dies left.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, we haven't commented on that yet.
Whereas Sean, we've got Dr. No, Thunderball, Diamonds, and Never Say Never Again. And then with this, we've got we did have before, obviously tonight's we had Live and Let Die, this, Octopussy, and we said we'd do A View to a Kill again. So yeah, 4 each of the 2 sort of most prolific Bonds.
And we've got Living Daylights and the first 2 Craigs.
That's right, yeah, absolutely.
And then, so there's still all to play for, as they say.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, should we just crack on with it then? Seeing as
let's do it.
Yeah, it's just not actually a long Bond film in comparison. Am I remembering right? Is it about under 2 hours?
It's a shade over 2 hours.
Is it? Oh, okay. I was thinking maybe because our review of it wasn't as long, was it?
Our review was like, it's not very good. Readers' wives. M's pissed. Good night.
Readers' wives. That was funny.
Yeah. So, no, this is probably about bang on average for a Bond film. They probably are. If you average them all out, they probably are about 205, 210, something like that.
Yeah, it's always in your mind. You think every Bond film is about under 2 hours, about 2 hours, but you need to think, it's just shy over it. Especially these days, all seems to be getting longer and longer, don't they? And
then Spectre comes along at 3 hours.
Well, I want
it just seems like that.
I want them to service the material, in that I don't want them to do a Quantum of Solace where they appeared to cut off their nose to spite their face. They went, we'll make it the shortest, and that film needed room to breathe. But at the same time, I'd be disappointed if I hear the next film's going to be 2.5 hours again. I think it's time that they stop this bloat in running times, because
they need to just do it justice really and have normal running time.
I mean, Daniel Craig's got the shortest Bond film, and then he's got 3 of the 4 longest.
Yeah.
And okay, I can buy it with Casino, I can buy it with Skyfall, but with Spectre there was no reason, absolutely no reason. Yeah, it didn't need to be the longest. I expect them to be over 2 hours, but they come in with it under 2 hours. I almost feel a bit shortchanged. But Bond films are supposed to be about 125, 130 minutes to me.
It didn't help that Spectre was lightweight. I mean, at least
it didn't need to be the length. It didn't need to be the length it was.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even if you love Spectre, I don't know why it's the longest Bond film.
No, it's just so we can have a fun fact saying you got one of the shortest, with one of the longest in between. So
yeah, absolutely.
We got a fun fact out of it.
Yeah, Quantum is the shortest. I suspect the second shortest would probably be Dr. No. I think the first 2 or 3 were under 2 hours, but yeah, most of Roger's era came in at 5 to 10 minutes over the 2 hour mark, and that's about right. I think, even though some of his actually felt a bit long, but that was more about the quality than anything else.
with Sir Rod, you've got to fit in all the lovely ladies. So
Yeah. It would have been 45 minutes.
And the array of clothes, you're wearing different outfits in a certain sense of casuality.
Yeah, that's it. He's got to change into his safari suits. And
they can't rush the shot if they want him to look casual about it, do they?
Exactly.
All those eyebrow raising moments, you know, you've got to squeeze all those in.
It takes 45 minutes for the eyebrow to reach peak arch. Yeah. Now
it takes about 5 minutes to sort of do a line of dialogue. Hello, my name is Bond, James Bond.
I don't want to tempt fate, but this is our last commentary until the end of the Marvel series, which is going to be a long series. At minimum, the first run's going to be 25 episodes, and it may even be longer. We'll talk more about that next week. The obvious caveat to that is a lot of the people that have been involved in these series are getting old now, and I don't want to tempt fate, but obviously if anything happens, a bit like last year with Roger Moore, we will step in and do a commentary. But all being well, this will be our last commentary until 2019 on the Bond series, anyway.
Yeah, unless we of course, you know what, we fancy a bit of a break. Let's have a commentary.
Yeah, we do reserve the right to stop after, say, Phase 2 of Marvel, but the chances are we won't.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see how we go.
But in the meantime, let's crack on.
And if we do, my choice is next, and I know what it is, and you're in for a treat, folks. It's a better film than this.
Well, I should let you know what it is, Dave. If you didn't, I'd be worried.
Yeah.
Dave's choice, I don't know what it is.
Well, we kind of know, but I'm not going to sort of spoil it.
We know, but we're not going to tell you.
All right, Chris.
So we're on the Blu-ray. We're all on the Blu-ray. So
well,
at home.
I'm not. I'm on a rip again because I'm nowhere near a Blu-ray player.
Okay,
so
what
I'm going to do is I'm going to start 2 or 3 seconds after you say yes, because I know just the mechanism of a Blu-ray just drops that amount of time.
Fair enough.
I may be slightly out of sync, but not.
I'll probably be a little bit behind you as per always. Hopefully my PS won't die on me this time.
That's just reaction times. Becca would be the fastest 100-meter runner in the world if it didn't take her 10 seconds to get out of the blocks.
Sorry.
It takes her 20 seconds, but she's actually the fastest human being ever.
So in other words, anyone listening at home, it doesn't really matter what you watch, you're going to watch it on, because we're all going to be out of sync with each other. So fuck it.
Well, I'll tell you what. Shall I press initiate mission now and then wait 2 or 3 seconds?
Let's just do it. All right. So on 3, we're going to go on 3. All right. So it's 1, 2, and 3, and we're off to the races. Well,
okay.
Right, but
I've just started a second or so behind, so I've got Metro Goldwyn Mayer coming up now. Leo.
Yeah, it's Leo. Yeah.
I'll tell you when he fading off now. So hopefully I'm in sync.
You are in sync, and then United Artists.
Yay.
I do quite like the logo of United Artists.
Yeah, although during the Brosnan era they had a different United Artists logo anyway.
That was lovely. I enjoyed that logo.
I liked it too, and by MGM they changed it again. They went to MGM, so United Artists have nothing to do with this now, even as a name.
Oh.
So, second and last time we see Roger Moore in that pose, the reason being they went to CinemaScope after this.
And also the wider flares.
Yes.
Yeah, they need to make room.
Wider screen and wider trousers.
Yeah. Now, I watched all these Bond films and I never found any of the villains particularly scary, and I thought, do you know what would be really scary? If one of the villains had a third tip.
And lo and behold, there was Francisco Scaramanga.
Just like, how competent is Nick Nack as a butler? I mean, fucking hell, he's really struggling there, isn't he?
Well,
he's like carrying that tray to his face. It's like, ugh.
Well, he is only like 4'2" or something.
He's got another nipple.
Oh my god, but it's not so hairy.
What are you doing there, love?
What are you done there? Why are you done there, Maud?
By today's standards, you would just like have that taken off, wouldn't you?
Probably.
You would. So apparently, I have it on good faith that she did actually appear in A View to a Kill.
I think so too. Mark O'Connell disagrees. I believe that he believes he's right, if you like.
Who did I hear it from? Somebody at the Pinewood weekend.
Just to recap, myself and Becca both felt we knew where she was in that scene.
Yeah.
Pointed her out. Then when Mark O'Connell came on for the commentary, he said no, but he was going. Now I know this sounds odd, but he was going off Maud Adams' word. But Maud Adams may not know. She was just there for the day, and we just assume. I would take a big Bond fan's word over Maud herself.
I can't. Yes, somebody. Yes, I can't. Somebody shall remain nameless. They did actually tell me because she just happened. She just happened to be in San Francisco when they were filming that scene, and obviously she knew Roger, and so she kind of worked it out with the director. And just kind of fate happened, really. They just happened to give her like a walk-on part just because she happened to be, be there on the day.
There. She doesn't think she was in the final shot. I think she was. I would trust that she would be truthful, but at the same time, if you're walking through a shot and then fly off home, do you even pay any attention? If it's an uncredited, unpaid gig, she may not even know.
No, I do. I think it probably was uncredited, wasn't it? But I'd say it's an interesting fun fact there.
Yeah.
And even though superfan Michael O'Connell may say no, I say maybe.
It's kind of odd that he's basically drinking a glass of Guinness while having champagne. I know he's just had a bottle of Tabasco delivered. It's just.
Yeah.
He likes to mix his drinks.
And he appears to be.
It's his own take of a wanked off, not fingered, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's getting ready to film a Le Coq Sportif advert.
Oh, he's got oysters there as well. Oh, aphrodisiac.
Aphrodisiac. That's it.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever had an oyster?
Yeah, I have.
I don't get what the appeal is.
I quite liked them.
Even though, obviously being a pescatarian, I like seafood, I'm not a fan of oysters, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I imagine they freak you out.
Yeah, just because of the nature of them.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine you going for that somehow.
No, I think I tried one once and I was like, ugh.
No, my genuine attitude is like food-wise, I'll try anything.
Sure.
Like, if it's commonly eaten, of course. If it's something that I know, like, a critical mass of people would try.
Like insects.
I'm happy to, and I quite liked it.
Yeah, I probably won't have them.
I sat on the beach in northern France eating them about 2 or 3 years ago.
Look at you.
I quite like mussels because you have all the garlic butter and things like that. I do enjoy that.
Yeah, mussels are nice.
The actual oysters, just because you swallow them whole, I just don't see the point. You don't get any
See, now when I tasted them, I was told, look, take that as a myth. You trust me, bite into them.
Okay.
So I did. I liked them. They're not for everyone though. They really aren't. They're very salty.
Yeah.
And they are a bit... Slimy's the wrong word, because that imagines them, covered in KY jelly or something. they're not
They melt
slimy,
in your mouth.
They are a little bit, slippery, though, put it that way.
Yeah, slippery is how I would describe it.
They're not for everyone. They really aren't, but I quite liked them. The other thing that a lot of people like that I wasn't sure about was caviar. Now, admittedly, I wasn't eating beluga or something. I was eating John West or something. One of the ones you get from a supermarket.
Yeah. And
it was a really weird experience because I was eating it, and with every mouthful, I was going, "This is fucking foul," but I couldn't stop.
Is it quite fishy?
Again, really, really salty, and it's one of those things that I didn't enjoy, but I couldn't stop eating. I can imagine the one was.
It was probably the salt part of it, really.
Quite possibly.
It makes you want to kind of eat or drink more, doesn't it? I think.
Possibly.
It's like when you have nuts or something at a bar, and it's just you probably shouldn't eat these because you know where they've been. But
every time I see this guy, all I can think is, "I got a brother."
Oh yeah, well it's the same guy, isn't it?
I don't know if is it the same guy.
It's the same guy.
Oh, is it? He definitely looks like him, doesn't he?
Mark, what's his face? It is the same guy from Diamonds. He goes, "I got a brother."
Yeah, I got a brother.
Oh my God! Don't hold it against me.
He is the proper stereotypical mobster kind of guy, isn't he?
I think he's known for playing gangsters.
It's you don't see those type of people anymore. Not that you would, but in terms of dress, but in terms of that look on the face and that attitude and that kind of see.
What I would be interested to know, in terms of we can't know now, is there was a bit of revisionism on Christopher Lee over the last 10 years, 12, 15 years of his life, in that when I was growing up, yes, he was Dracula, and yes, he was Scaramanga, but he was best known for doing an awful lot of B-movie Drek. And he would turn up in everything. He had well over 200 credits. But of course, in the last few years of his life, The Wicker Man had become like a real cult hit. And then he was in Star Wars, and then whatever we may or may not think of them, and we'll cover them one day, he was in the Lord of the Rings films and the Hobbit films, which were, well, certainly the Lord of the Rings films were really well thought of. So suddenly this has been retconned as, wow, Christopher Lee. And I wonder if that was the case in the 70s. I do wonder if there was any cachet around this guy at this time.
I would have
I
thought
think even
so.
by that point, he still had an impressive CV. Obviously, as they known for like Hammer, Dracula. So I kind of wonder if, I don't know, I don't think he would have done this just to kind of keep his coffers going, or to kind of revive his career.
Yeah, because this is a year after The Wicker Man, and I would recommend the original version of that film to anybody. It's terrific.
Oh, definitely. Amazing, most influential films.
It's a wonderful, wonderful piece of work, and it's a little bit creepy, but it's not quite scary. Britt Ekland's in it as well. Now, as a kid, I watched this and went, "Who's that?" And they said James Bond, and I thought, well, that's how the film ends, isn't it?
Well.
And I don't even give myself credit for being that clever. It was just one of those bizarre moments where, even as a kid, I went, "Well, I can see how this film finishes."
Yeah.
Well, I think that's where you can get.
And Roger Moore isn't staying exactly still there. He can't.
No, you can see it move just a tiny amount.
I mean, he's doing his best. I mean, yeah.
But fair, he is pretty good, and obviously that's a work.
Then there's one last shot, and I'm wondering what he shoots off with that last shot.
Pew! An ear or
It's not.
a ball. Kneecap.
No, we are back. I've always liked The Spy Who Loved Me's title sequence. I know Chris disagrees, but really we are in a bit of a downward trend by now, aren't we?
It's all a bit kind of watery, isn't it?
They never really. From doing the series, I figured that they were never really that good.
No.
Really, until.
And I do wonder whether The Spy Who Loved Me is just timing with the music and an extraordinarily good song.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, to be
honest.
honest.
Because I totally respect why you don't like it, because there's no theme there, but it's just timed so perfectly, all of it.
Well, the theme is like kind of watery birds reflecting at a pool. But no, I think it's just timing and
Future Kill really amuses me in a really crap way.
Yeah, because it's just
neon.
Like they thought this. I remember you on the review going, they thought this looked good.
neon.
Just neon birds and.
Oh, sorry.
I could see they had he had a theme in his head and he thought it was being really artistic, but really it was it's a bit shit, really.
What's modern? Neon.
Yeah,
well, you had the fire and ice thing. It's okay. Right,
yeah, but also back then, kids were wearing those neon socks, the pink and green ones and stuff. So
but it's just we had the same shot of Roger Moore from other titles just turn up.
I want them to put that in Bond 25 and make no reference to it at all.
Just drop it in there.
Just have Roger Moore jump up, fire a gun, and disappear again.
Or Daniel Craig just do an impression of all the different Bonds just in different scenes just for no reason.
Yeah, comes on as Sean Connery, slaps a woman.
Raises his eyebrow.
Comes on as Sean and hands in a letter of resignation straight away. Comes on as Roger and just smarms it up a bit. Comes on
raises an eyebrow.
What would he do as George? It's all the ladies.
Hand in a letter of resignation.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said Sean, sorry.
No. Tim, come on as a bouffant.
You just why is Craig doing a Welsh accent all of a sudden?
Yeah, as Pierce, he just comes on as a wine waiter. I am so glad this was Guy Hamilton's last film. I hate speaking ill of the dead, but on balance, I think a lot of his stuff looks kind of sloppy.
He was such a lovely man to meet. I don't know.
I've heard he was a really, really lovely man, and
yeah,
he did do a couple of really great Bond films. But when he was poor, he was so sloppy.
No, he has made some other howlers outside of this one. But I must say, I do even though Lily's theme is very often ranked quite low down. I do quite enjoy it. It's campy, it's funny. I mean, there's
which one? Sorry.
Lily's Golden Gun theme just now. I quite like it. Yeah, I think it's good fun.
It's really kind of a guilty pleasure. It's more the fact.
Definitely for me.
Do you know the reason I've never liked it wasn't lyrics or anything. It was the fact that she was so breathy within it. It's almost like she's a professional singer. She would know how to breathe. And it's almost like she forgot during that song. There's lots of going on.
Maybe perhaps they might have recorded it in lots of different takes rather than one take, or
unless maybe it might have been on purpose, like
this is sexy. Let's put it.
Yeah.
Well, kind of maybe, but experimented a bit with like, this adds a bit of energy to it.
That guy in the middle there, the bald guy with the moustache, was mistaken for a hotel inspector by Basil Fawlty.
Oh yes, yeah.
Basil was like tossing around him, and he's like, "No, I'm not." Eventually, it was the same episode like Bernard Cribbins was in, and he got them both wrong, thinking they were like inspectors.
Oh, fabulous! Oh, Fawlty Towers. That's an absolute classic series.
That is a fine moustache, though.
Epic tash.
And it's around the same time, actually, because the first series of Fawlty Towers was the year after this.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's around the same sort of time. Oh, very cool. But I do like this one. It's one of those Bond films where like Bond knows everything. It's
all of the Roger Moore era. I find it half funny, half obnoxious. I don't know how to feel about it. Certainly by the time Pierce Brosnan was pulling the same trick, I was like, oh, shut up, Pierce.
No, exactly. It's quite refreshing to go back and read something like, obviously, Forever in a Day, which is meant to be the prequel to Casino Royale, where like Bond...
I haven't got to it yet. I will do. I'm reading them all.
Catch up, definitely.
Yeah, I've decided.
I can highly recommend it.
I've decided I'm going to read all the Bond books, including the Young Bond.
Yeah.
The odd short story that isn't in like an anthology, I won't bother with. So I've got them all written down. It's something like 49 of them.
There's quite a lot of them.
I've nearly finished. I've nearly finished From Russia with Love, which is the 5th.
I think the ones that you kind of obviously 007 in New York, Diamond Smugglers.
Yeah, but that's all in collection, so they will.
Yeah, they're like not Bond canon. Well, 007 in New York is not quite.
Yes, but that is part of it, though. Sure. That will come. That and Quantum of Solace and all the rest of it are in a certain. No, I think that Risico and a couple of others are in a certain collection.
Octopussy and.
Yeah, that's right. The last one that was published.
Which is Property of a Lady.
Yeah, which is used at the start of Octopussy.
I couldn't remember what the title was called.
Property of a Lady. Who did like Bond show off better, Sean or Roger?
Who did what?
Roger.
Who did like showing off about their knowledge more?
Well, the only time we ever really saw it with Sean was
Diamonds.
Yeah, Diamonds.
Oh yeah, we did actually. You're absolutely right. Yeah, we did see it in when he was banging on about sake as well.
Yeah, he knows what temperature to drink sake at.
Now, Moneypenny's fucking hot, isn't she?
I like it. I like a nice green shirt.
It's that blouse.
This woman is still in her 40s at this point. Do you know what I mean? In this day and age, she's in kind of like my age bracket. In that, like, I'd totally be interested in a woman of that age, but not looking like Margaret Thatcher there. What's going on with her hair?
Here, like this era, I can believe that her and Rod are a couple.
The things though, like you realise it when you watch like old game shows, like even as old as like the Crystal Maze. Like, people looked older back then, so like they'll come on. You have in your head, oh, they're like in the 30s. I'm 19, thinking, fucking hell.
Well, it's all the hair and the thick makeup, isn't it?
Yeah, it's weird.
Well, Bernard Lee was the same age in like Doctor No as like Rafe was in Spectre.
Oh God.
You wouldn't believe that.
What makes you think? Saida. I know what his eyes are.
We're just wives. Look at that! Look, that is not a knockout. I don't mean any disrespect there, because like in real life you might meet her and be attracted to her, but like in terms of putting her in your blockbuster film, that is not a knockout beauty.
But she's meant to be known for her belly dancing and
Big
her abdomen more than her face.
Big Daddy there watching.
It is Big Daddy.
Fucking his waistline up half up to his tits, basically.
Yeah, no.
Or Hitchcock, depending on what you're thinking of. Yeah, she's meant to be more known for her abdomen rather than her looks.
And in the middle there appears to be 1996 World Darts Champion Steve Beaton. Going for vague references there.
All these Bond cameos you didn't know existed.
There's Michael Winner at the side there.
Oh yeah, there he is.
Well done, Loves.
Oh yeah, this is the bit that made no actual sense, isn't it?
It's the fact they've gone to like Beirut or whatever it is, and that's clearly Pinewood because you don't see outside at all.
It's
just like
Pinewood.
Quickly do a set. Hello, James Bond. Ooh.
That's a very quick and
I love the fact that's all
Bond
he has to do. He's totally like, well, you'll definitely want to fuck me straight away.
He just to mention his name, and the ladies will go like, "Oh," and they swoon.
He is wearing a really nice suit there.
He is.
No, he
By
does look good.
standards, yes, he does.
Rog looks good. I think how, obviously, previous film, Live and Let Die, we have My Name is Bond, big pause, James Bond, and now we've just got James Bond, and it's like, So we've got maybe one of the longest Bonds, and then also the shortest Bond. So, another trend for you.
Yeah, not as good as Lazenby. My name's Bond! James Bond!
Really, really excited. My name's Bond!
Hello, good morning!
My name's Bond!
Do you know what? I always defend George, and I really like him, and it wouldn't be hard that if he'd done a series of films, he'd be considered one of the best.
I'm really hoping to go to this
but
anniversary event so I can...
If the film had been shit, it really would have put the spotlight on that, wouldn't it?
It would have.
If the film had been really terrible, and you've got, good morning!
Oh, hello!
My name's Bond. James Bond!
That's all it takes, look. He's totally like, hello.
This is my name, I'm just gonna shag you silly.
You can see the freckles on his hands already.
He's a freckly boy.
His liver spots, yeah.
Oh. Awesome. He's lovely.
How clumsy of me.
Feels.
Why down there?
You want to go on the love? Give us a quick one too.
I know. She could have had it as a clip piercing, couldn't she?
Oh my god, after Kingsman Part 2, I don't think they'll ever go there again.
I found that really funny though. I know I shouldn't.
It was funny, but I was a little bit I had to cross my legs during that scene. I was like, oh.
Why? Were you under attack?
No, but I just had to cross my legs.
To be honest, the only thing that made me cringe about that part was the fact they were in Glastonbury. That was oh, for fuck's sake, really?
That's where you see the crew, look. There you go, you see the crew in the window there.
Yes, you can.
In the mirror.
Yeah.
You can.
Oof!
Yeah, a lot of
oof! That's actually quite violent, really, considering. Just banging someone's head against the wall.
He would do a lot of his stunts, 85% of the time.
Yeah, that 85% being Live and Let Die.
Yeah.
And the other 15% being the other 6 films.
On the subject of Bond books as well, I would also highly recommend the reissue.
Bit of brute to the face.
Live and Let Die Diaries.
That's where Roger said, did a scene, played a bit of backgammon, had some sex.
And it was all good. I got paid.
Had my highlights done.
Smoked a cigar.
Stoked me a clipper, I'll be back.
Oh, I'd have to do Red Dwarf one day, that'd be so much fun. But there's a lot of it, so we probably won't.
If you can think of a format in which we can do Red Dwarf, maybe under a spin-off name, that's fine.
Yes. Stoke me a clipper.
You never had any, dear. You look rather readers' wives from where I'm looking.
Oh dear.
Right, off to film The Saint and cheat on my wife.
Did he cheat on his wife?
Yeah.
Roger Moore, yeah. I mean,
he did, yeah. That's the only way he could get out of it, though.
He was, he was a victim of domestic abuse in his second
He
one.
was, yeah, and especially that era as well. The only way that he could get out of it, because he couldn't divorce, was to be adulterous.
Yeah.
And that's his only way out.
Or was he a victim of domestic abuse?
Yeah, his second wife, I think it's his second wife, apologies if I've got that wrong, was quite violent towards him, may have been his third. One of his wives used to knock him about, and being a gentleman, he didn't know really how to deal with it.
No, obviously he wouldn't give her back, would he? So
yeah,
which is
yeah, he should have listened to his mate Sean.
Oh dear.
Yeah, we don't endorse that here on
No, we don't endorse any wife beating or husband beating. Thank you.
If you don't twat them, it's not our policy.
No.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, no, she never resort to that.
Thank God they've got a bullet to look at now.
With his name on.
Not only that, a smashed up bullet. Just
now, Roger, when you come in to see us, would you mind dressing like Nigel Farage?
Everyone dressed like Nigel Farage back then.
Actually,
it was Blazer Central.
Yeah, which is exactly the same as Alan Partridge in Waterway to Have a Good Time.
I was like, or is it Alan Partridge?
Yeah.
Well, it's basically the Blazer, isn't it?
It is the Blazer, yeah.
Yeah, double-breasted. Writing's on the wall.
Periodically, double-breasted blazers become fashionable again, and I would recommend to anyone as no guru of fashion, ignore that trend. because when they're out of fashion, they're really out of fashion. Whereas a single-breasted suit always looks all right.
Yeah.
What was the one that Pierce wears when in Goldeneye, doesn't he? Is it single-breasted?
I think so. Yeah. No, I think it is.
He looks.
But it is kind of a blazer. Yeah.
I think like a coat, like a.
Oh yeah, no, it's different with a long coat or something. Yeah.
Well, that's a
Safari suit.
Safari suit. You never see them anymore, do you?
Safari suit? No.
Yeah.
I don't think Craig will ever wear one.
No, he's headed down to a part of town that clearly looks like it would have like brothels in it.
Yeah, he's not after the gunsmith. He's after actually a good time. Senor? Uh-huh. These are it.
I don't know if it's the film stock or just the way it's been maintained, but I've always thought that the way this film looks, given its locations, is kind of drab.
It does a little bit, yeah, it doesn't pop off the screen.
It doesn't, does it? I always felt the same way about You Only Live Twice, which is like the ugliest of the 60s films. And yet
it's
got
one of
all
those beautiful locations.
Exactly. And it isn't ugly, by the way. I'm only talking relatively with You Only Live Twice. It's still a pretty film, but...
I think it's because these are off the remasters that were done, what, like a decade ago? And
yeah, about 2005, something like that. But, you know, like, when you look at You Only Live Twice, Thunderball is beautiful, and Majesties is extraordinarily beautiful.
That was stunning.
And the first three are as well. So it stands out as, like, looking the drabbest, and I can never understand why, because it's such pretty locations.
Considering now we have, like, the 4K restorations, like, I was lucky enough to see the restoration of Live and Let Die.
You did, yeah.
Leapt off the screen. Likewise, when we went to, there was an all-night screener at Prince Charles Theatre in London a while ago. And so we had like Goldfinger, which just leapt off the screen. So beautiful.
I saw Dr. No and Goldfinger a couple of years ago. 4K restoration's beautiful. But then Dr. No, for such a cheap film, looks amazing anyway, doesn't it?
Oh, it does for sure, especially on Blu-ray as well. I mean, like the first time I saw From Russia with Love, for example, on Blu-ray, it blew my mind.
See,
looked like new.
I looked at what was it, Goldfinger. When you think a lot of the Kentucky stuff is actually shot backlocked.
Oh, yeah, on the backlots, yeah.
You think it would look drab, but it doesn't. It just looks gorgeous.
I mean, it's obviously like the blue screen elements, like for example when Felix appears, and you can kind of tell that he isn't actually in Florida. He's in Pinewood.
That would be the same at any sort of level of.
But the rest of it looks fine. And also, it's a little bit more noticeable that some of the.
Do you know someone
flying
said
circus are actually dudes?
Someone said the other day, and it really got me thinking. I mean, if they get Felix back, I want it to be Jeffrey Wright for obvious reasons.
Well, he said it's possible, so he might be back.
But if they went with the book definition of him, someone said, the perfect Felix would be Matthew McConaughey. And they're actually
yes, of course. That makes perfectly true sense. Yeah,
because he's kind of a blonde Texan, isn't he?
Yeah, so that is Matthew McConaughey for sure.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you could do that for when he.
The only problem is he's supposed to be similar to in age to Bond, and Matthew McConaughey's probably late 40s by now. It's just.
But I think you can forgo that though, can't you? For seeing that he's a secondary character. Yeah,
why can't you make me 15 years older? Yeah, no, I get it.
And plus, Matthew McConaughey looks good anyway, and even though
he does. But yeah, I'm kind of enjoying the books. The funny thing when you reread them is I'm the same with books as I am with films in that it's a clean slate every time. So like I went into like Moonraker, for example, remembering it being brilliant, and I enjoyed it just fine, but not as much as I remembered. And I went into Diamonds thinking it was going to be Drek and kind of enjoyed it. So it's kind of interesting rereading them. It's a very different continuity and a very different Bond, and you have to switch off what you know of the films.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are quite different.
I mean, I know as we go on and you get the continuity orders, particularly Raymond Benson, you could just picture Pierce Brosnan, and that's no problem. But where they're aping Fleming, and they're sort of fitting in with Fleming, they're different. They are different.
But having said that, like the John Gardner ones are hideously dated now. Like so stuck in the 80s.
He drove a Saab or something.
A Saab, yeah, he drove a Saab.
Yeah.
I can never imagine that happening on screen.
Nor can I.
But hey ho.
Oh no.
Saab.
Who drives a Saab? I mean, honestly.
Do
you drive a Saab, Chris?
No.
I'm about 9 books away from that.
coming soon, coming soon. They're quite I was gonna say easy reads if you skip past them. Racism.
Most of the books are like 250 pages.
Yeah, they're quite short.
Which book was it? I don't know if it was the last one or the one before. I think it might have been the one I'm on. It might have been when they were talking about Red Grant. They were talking about crimes, and they were listing like how he'd done some minor crimes, nothing serious, and included in the nothing serious was rape.
Yeah.
Dodgy human being, Ian Fleming.
Very dodgy, but then obviously laws are different as well.
Well, you can say of his time. I suspect he came off as a fucking posh bigot back then too. But some of the books are really good. The plots aren't great. What's really good about them is the pacing. And he finishes books like no one else I've ever read. In that, like, I'm not saying whether he's good or bad, but you finish one wanting to start the next.
No, that's quite good, isn't it? I think that's a good sign.
Particularly Casino Royale, where he's going on about the arm that holds the whip and stuff like that at the end of it. It's
Really
something like, give me the next one now.
Yeah, literally. You want to find more about that arm, don't you?
Yeah.
That's, hallmarks of a good writer there, I think.
That guy's... look how short that guy is!
He's tiny.
And here's probably one of the worst Bond girls ever.
Oh.
She's really bad. It's really funny if you've just watched The Wicker Man, because she's dubbed Scottish in that.
She is, yeah, they dubbed her. It's a bit dub crazy, that film.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's bloody well good. I like this guy. Surprise!
Oh.
Makes me laugh. Oh, the blood. Makes me laugh.
Oh, I'll just sneak into someone's room. It's fine.
Yeah, literally. You couldn't do that in the real world, could you? But because he's a Rog, it's alright. Oh, nice room.
Yeah, but he wasn't Sir Roger at this stage.
Well, no, but still.
At best, he would have been Roger MBE.
Look, I just love how casually he just takes his gun out of his breast pocket. It's like...
He doesn't know what he's getting into, you know.
No, but it's how casually just sort of like, yep, here's my gun.
The problem is he was Bond for so long that they got more and more stupid and comedic, partly because that was his sensibility, but I now think part of it was he was getting older, so they couldn't really like stress action in the same way. But doing them the way we are now, where we'll do like a commentary and then half a dozen episodes of something else and then do another commentary, he's now off the bottom. I think he's better than Pierce Brosnan. He just has so much more charisma, screen presence, gravitas, everything, and he has a take.
Here, where he's a blatant pervert.
He has a take on the character which Brosnan never had. So he's now not my least favourite Bond. Pierce Brosnan is.
Sure, yeah, he just kind of go up the ranks, doesn't he? So.
And again, that's relative, because now I think I'll say genuinely I enjoy them all. Roger is like one where I struggle with some of his, but I do enjoy them. And it'll be quite interesting when I get to John Gardner, because he was Bond when those books were written, and I'll be interested to see if I start picturing them as Roger.
I'll say I think you probably will. I did certainly.
Yeah, I tend to picture as Sean, except when he's physically described, and occasionally you talk the grey eyes, and then immediately you picture Jason Isaacs or something.
Like you Carmichael.
Yeah, but he's better than I thought, and Pierce Brosnan's perfectly like entertaining, but like Roger's got a take and some gravitas and screen presence, and he's a film star. And Pierce Brosnan's TV. With
Bros, I think they tried to make him like an amalgam of all the Bonds that had come so far, that had come before. And he just tried to spread himself too thinly, I think, rather than put his own stamp. I think it took him, probably like his last film. This is the one scene I don't like, I must say.
No. Roger didn't like this either.
No. But just a little bit like, oh, look away.
It does actually, I don't know whether it's Maud's acting here or something about that grip does look very painful, like generally.
Yeah,
like,
she's quite
yeah, I mean, I'm not defending any violence against women in this series, I promise I'm not. But when it's a slap, it's over and done quickly. Whereas that, she was struggling and in pain, and you thought, her arm was being dislocated or something.
Yeah, you could really believe, like, if he said, oh, I wanted to break it, then you would believe that he would do it.
I do like her though. I think she's wasted in this film, and by the time she plays like Octopussy, she's got that sort of 80s perm bollocks going on.
It wasn't 80s.
It's a bit of a waste, unfortunately.
I remember saying in the original review that she should have been the main Bond girl.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, really, she really should have done. Definitely.
Even if it did mean that she ended up dying at the end, it would have made the film more weighty. Would have made the film better. Rather than James, when's it my turn to have a shag? Good night.
Bloody hell, that's basically what she says.
That's her whole character, is basically sort of whinging about, like, when am I going to get shagged by the great James Bond?
Yeah, when's my turn, love?
Yeah. The only reason why I accepted this mission was...
It's when he shoves her in a cupboard in a bit. It's like, you feel like he's going to push her in there with a notepad and just say, like, if you see me do anything you like, let me know and I'll happily replicate for you another time.
I mean, yeah, but, in a slight defence, though, if there was any other character you really like, any other like Bond girl who you were happy to see mistreated, it'd be that girl, because she's just that vacuous. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
She's a twat. Let's see him fuck someone else in front of her.
Yeah, yeah, basically.
But it isn't her fault. It's the way she's written. I mean, when you look at Stacey, I know you've got all the James stuff, but like the actress looks a bit vacuous too. And when you get to Christmas Jones, exactly the same. Never would you buy her. Here, I'm not even sure it's Britt Eklund. I just think it's the way she's written. I don't think Britt Eklund's a great actress. I think she's terrible either.
Yeah, I mean, she would have just shown up and like did what she was told, essentially.
Britt Eklund probably responsible for like Peter Sellers not living that long, because he had a massive heart attack on their like wedding night.
Stressed him out.
He was in his 30s and she was 19, and he got a bit overexcited. Which is why when you watch the Pink Panther and then watch A Shot in the Dark, he's significantly slimmer in the second one.
Yeah, I started watching those and I couldn't believe the difference. I was like, really?
I'm recording a Politflix on them next week.
Oh, I should have to catch up then. I'll get on with it and then listen to
We're going to cover the original Pink Panther, A Shot in the Dark, Return of the Pink Panther, Strikes Again. Then we're going to skip like Revenge and Trail and just do the first Steve Martin reboot.
Ah.
So we're going to cover those.
You're not going to do the second Steve Martin reboot.
The second one's terrible. The first one's not that bad. It really isn't.
Which ones didn't they change? Like the police chief, wasn't one like?
Yeah, they did. It's John Cleese in one and Kevin Kline in the other, and I haven't seen them for years, so I can't remember which way round it is. I think Kevin Kline's in the first one, but I wouldn't swear to it.
What's he doing these days?
He Phoebe Cates.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Maybe that's why he's not making films.
Yeah.
Bottoms up.
Yeah, sadly this club doesn't exist anymore.
Why sadly? Were we all desperate? I was on the waiting list, damn.
Well, no, it was just one of those locations that, it was in a Bond film you could have visited, but now it's closed, so no, you can't.
Look at the passion he visits on these ladies.
Oh. It's the man with the golden gun, and yet we don't see him till a good chunk of the film.
No, we've just seen him there, but you don't see him much. He is wasted.
I'll say if anybody's wasted in this film, it is Christopher Lee.
So who isn't wasted? Nick Nack.
Nick Nack, Roger Moore tells some stories on his... Well, he used to tell some stories on his live show about Irving Village Chase. He was just fucking around like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, apparently all the girls loved him.
He was just off to brothels and stuff like that constantly. Shagging dozens of them.
It's incredible, Yeah, if you read some of his, Tales of Tinseltown, and like his memoirs and everything, all the stories are in there. And it's just, some of the stories he tells are just hilarious.
See, so he's got really good, like,
scary vision.
Sinister eyes, yeah, Christopher Lee.
He has. Yeah.
In the head.
Good shot. That would be quite difficult to do, just like not blinking. Like if you're in a scene where you have to be dead and you can't blink.
I think they killed the actor just for verisimilitude.
Oh dear. Snuff movie.
I've had a good life, go on.
I had a good run, yeah. Put the dog down.
Yeah, we'll pay you after the filming, don't you worry.
I'm sure they didn't. Right, that's what I was going to do.
This film is a mixed up mess, though. Because he's about to find out, really, that, like, Scaramanga's really got no problem with him at all. And that should have been the end of it. See,
yeah, this plot does not make any sense, does it? Really?
See, the difficulty I've got with Roger Moore, well, I've got lots of difficulties with him, but one of the historical difficulties I've had watching his films is, as a heterosexual man who can sometimes see the attractiveness of certain men, but sometimes not, I think it all got coloured by his later Bond, that I could never imagine him as, like, women really wanting him. But, like, he was a good-looking man when he was younger, wasn't he?
Well, he is suave and charming. As you said,
suave is the word I would describe.
But suave, I struggle with the word suave because it's normally used as interchangeably with fucking smarmy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And later on, when he was this old man
cool,
just trying
charming.
to fuck all the time, yeah, I struggle with all of
Well,
that.
he said he dresses well, and also I think he just like took on the character in terms like, well, this is the character, so I'm just going to take that and run with it.
Yeah, more like the lighter side of it, just how he liked to be a sort of charm that 80s and
be
charm his way out of a mission rather than.
I mean, by the
cheat
time in Moonraker, he's undressing them without any consent at all. You know,
addresses them with his eyes.
I don't really have a political problem with it because I know what the film was going for, but at the same time, I'm just like, oh, this is a bit sleazy. And
well,
then,
with a character like Corinne, for example, but with Dr. Goodhead, I'm like, would you not put up more of a fight?
And then by the end, where he's got like really puffy hair, not bouffant, but kind of just arranged, I was like, women wouldn't fancy him. And then you go back and watch Sean Connery, and you're like, yeah, every woman who's ever lived seemingly fancied that guy.
He's hot.
I never quite got it, but then of course when you see him in like episodes of The Saint and in the very early Bond films he does, Roger Moore's quite a good-looking guy, isn't he, Becca?
Well, even in The Persuaders, for example, obviously where he did this before, and he had to sort of lose weight because of it.
There was a lightness to him in The Persuaders.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, still very much. He was very deft, and again, he always looked very good. Obviously, because he designed all their outfits on that series. But yeah,
like,
he would look good. He would look good.
But like he laughed a lot more in that, so there was a lightness of playfulness to him.
Yeah, very lightness.
Even compared to his Bond, it's the same with Brosnan. You think of him as one of the lighter Bonds, but like he laughs an awful lot more in like other films he's in. There's something about the pressure. There's something about the pressure of playing Bond that makes him go comparatively.
Makes him so serious. So that's why Daniel Craig's so serious, because he's finding the pressure.
But Daniel Craig's a good example. You'd never use the word suave, but like he scrubs up quite well, and I totally believe women would want him.
I don't think suave would apply to Daniel more.
But suave, but I'm using suave interchangeably with oily, and he's not. It's not that. It's still,
the thing with Craig is he has that. You know, he's similar to like say if like not like he will do despite what Pierce Brosnan says, but if Tom Hardy played it, he's that kind of he's a rough around the edges, good looking guy who scrubs up well.
By rough around the edges, we don't mean he's wearing donkey jackets or anything. He still dresses very like smart.
No, that's what I mean. He dresses smart, but you can tell like he's not soft. You can tell like he's a hard man, but looks. Yeah. And has that kind of and covers that element of like smart, sophisticated, but also dangerous. You know,
I'd be behind Tom Hardy if it wasn't for two or three things. Firstly, he'd be following Craig, and I think it's too similar. Secondly, Craig is 5'10", and Hardy's 5'9", and I think they've got to arrest the slide before they do hire like fucking Jimmy Cranky.
I think that's still a bit of a stretch, isn't it?
No, but I just think it's getting to the point where it's like, no, Bond's meant to be 6 foot something. I'm happy to make an exception for Craig because he was brilliant.
How tall's
But the other thing is, Tom Hardy was born, and I think early 78. So again, he's going to be like 44 on debut. It's too old.
Oh yeah, they need to be like, well, I'd say late 30, like 39, 40.
That's
about 42. Because Pierce was 42 when he started.
When I picture Aidan Turner's 6 foot, so he's just about all right. But Aidan Turner, I always picture him with his hair arranged much more 50s style.
Like he was in the Agatha Christie adaptation.
I picture him as like a Fleming take on the character.
Definitely.
Even though he doesn't look exactly like the Fleming description, I always imagine that if you did like the Bond books as is on like Netflix or something, he'd be perfect for that.
I think that's why Toby Stephens is quite good. Obviously, doing it on the radio.
Voices,
Yes, doing it in terms of Bond voice. I mean, obviously he's a very smarmy villain, but that's what he's meant to be. But I think his radio Bond is pretty good.
He's got the red phone there. Why doesn't he just call him Batman?
Batman, come on. Shine that bat symbol.
I just like how M just liking the idea of being a bit like, you know, our house and a bit weird. Like,
yeah, it's a bit wonky.
being on like a weird sunken ship that everything's all like.
I still marvel at the fact that he was always drunk filming.
Bernard Lee does look really ill in this film. I just can't. What draws me to him is the amount of makeup that he seems to be wearing.
It's powder, isn't it? It's foundation they're putting on him. Yeah, that was from like Diamonds onwards. And when you read up on him, his wife and kid, I think I'm being too lazy to look it up, but like he had like I think his spouse and a kid killed in a house fire in about 71. And he was always a drunk before that. I mean, he was drunk in all his scenes in Majesties, for example.
They drove him over the edge.
But apparently it really ramped up. And somebody famous, it might have been Richard Burton or somebody like that, paid him out of trouble because he was in a load of debt as well.
Sure.
I can't remember who that was. That I might look up.
Richard Burton sounds believable.
Yeah, but I feel like I'm making it up. I need to look that up.
Sure.
But he definitely looks worse in the 70s. And I think some of it is he's older. But some of it is they're hiding. There you go. On the 30th of January 1972, so it wouldn't include Diamonds, Lee's first wife, Gladys Merridew, died in a fire at their 17th century home in Oare, Kent. Apologies if I mispronounced that, which also left Lee hospitalised. According to actor Jack Warner, Bernard and Gladys had a lovely 17th century cottage in the Kent village of Oare. Again, apologies if I said that wrong. And it was there she died tragically in a fire in 1972. Bernard and Gladys were trapped in their bedroom when the fire started on the ground floor. Bernard escaped through a window and ran to get a ladder in an attempt to rescue Gladys, but unhappily was unsuccessful. It was an awful end to a long and happy marriage. Bernard, in February 1972, Lee was mugged and robbed by two youths. So this was like within a month.
God,
after the mugging and fire, Lee turned to drink and was unable to find work for 2 years and ran into debt. By chance, I was right, but that's a fluke. By chance, Lee met Richard Burton in a pub, who, upon hearing of Lee's problems, gave him a cheque for $6,000 to clear his debts, together with a note saying that everyone had a spot of trouble once in a while.
Yeah.
Burton's gift assisted Lee in overcoming his depression. In 1975, both Lee and then it goes on about him appearing as something else. Married. Yeah, their grandson's Johnny Lee Miller.
Obviously, Johnny Lee Miller. Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
Currently, is he still doing Sherlock? Obviously.
No idea. Elementary, you mean?
Yeah, I think I'm still going.
Of course, Trainspotting was full of Johnny Lee Miller doing Bond references. But yeah, he had a tough time. He was drinking before that, so let's not dress it up. But what a tough time.
Difficult time, yes.
Particularly as he
Look how casual Roger is there. Sorry to.
Casual Roger. This is the casual Roger edit.
No, normally most people are like, you know, he's just like, yeah.
I love the fact for that lower shot, they probably had to like cut and go to change his shirt because there's no like footmarks or anything. He was rubbish at action, but he's probably the best Bond at climbing over things.
Probably stunt double.
Much younger man.
Now this is just lucky, isn't it? I
This is quite funny.
Where he's got to show his third nipple. I mean, if this was a casino, how would that?
Really?
Oh my God, she's in the nip.
He's got no pants on.
He's got nothing. Hang on, can we see anything? Yeah, I can see.
Oh, yes, you can.
I can totally see.
Yeah, we can all see.
Well, this is Roger just chancing it, really. Just like I'll just take a punt. I'll just like see what I can find out.
I don't know.
You can totally see things.
Where is she? Where does she come from?
Where does she come from? We can see where she comes from.
Well, you can, but you know what I mean. Why does Hi-Fi have a naked guy swimming in this pool?
You can get if I win the lottery.
Is his nipple on the wrong side? No.
Yeah, I thought
he's in the wrong place. Yeah. But again, all that's known is a vague description, and he's got one.
Sure. You don't know where it is.
Yeah, I've never noticed a bush before. That's why I love revisiting these films, because we learn so much more.
That's what's amazing about Blu-ray. You kind of see things that you didn't notice before.
Well, okay. I was going to say on the big screen you'd see it.
Well, yeah, on the big screen.
This came out in a double with On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and I can't think of a worse second half to a double bill than that.
No, that was a bit weird. I think maybe because
when
it came out, Christopher Lee had just died, and the ending of Majesty's is so downbeat.
Just like you put it with.
So you need something quite cheery.
I mean, the natural thing is to put it with Casino, but Casino had already been put with Skyfall. The natural second half of a double bill for Majesty's for me is always For Your Eyes Only.
Yeah, definitely, because you've got kind of a natural succession.
Starts at the grave anyway, and they're similar in tone and smell.
Yeah. So you've got the continuity there, haven't you? I think it's literally just because Christopher Lee had died recently.
Yeah.
That's the only reason we could put with it. It was good fun. It allowed me to meet Brian Dobson. That was pretty cool.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I didn't go. I didn't.
Yeah, we missed out when you did, Dave.
I would. Well, I mean, if I had done, I would have gone to Majesty's and left.
Yes.
Not because I really loathe this film, but because I don't want to watch this after Majesty's.
No, it was a bit odd.
Had it been the first half, maybe. Maybe if bizarrely they'd put it that way round, then yeah. But I struggle to watch any Bond film right after Majesty's. The only one I can do is For Your Eyes Only. Because Casino Royale's a bit long and heavy to follow Majesty's with straight away anyway.
So you're trying to watch it at 3 in the morning, that was quite difficult.
Yeah, that stuff doesn't appeal to me. I've stopped doing midnight screenings and stuff because I never enjoy the film. I don't.
No.
It's a waste of money.
I can't remember the last time I did one. Probably might have been a Star Wars, maybe.
It was a Star Wars in my case, and like I enjoyed the film okay, but I enjoyed it much more like the following tea time when I watched it again.
Yeah, when you're kind of more with it.
Yeah, I don't feel the need to do it. And to be honest, I've learned the hard way that it's pointless doing more than a double bill. If you're not at home, you can watch films all day if you're sat at home. But sat in a cinema, I don't want to watch a third after a second. I really don't.
I think with the location, with the PCC, because it was quite nice, because obviously they got the upstairs and the downstairs screen.
Yeah.
I think had it been downstairs, I might have perhaps not gone. But the upstairs is smaller, it's a bit more intimate. Okay. Seats are comfier.
Well, it's just that when I looked at the list of the films as well, I could totally see why they chose the films they chose. But they aren't the ones I'd choose. So, like, I mean, they started with, I think, Goldfinger. Well, I definitely would start with Dr. No, regardless. Cause it was the
or From Russia Love, for example, if they're doing the first. I think one of the JPR team, family people, wrote, I think has actually written to the PCC and said, would you consider doing another Bond all-nighter? And how about picking these films? Because obviously Park Circus have the roster, so it's literally whatever they have available. And he dropped them an email and said, would you consider doing another all-nighter with this bunch of films? So we'll see how they get on. And I think it was literally like, Dr. No, From Russia of Love, obviously Majesty's again, can't remember what they were. For Your Eyes Only, and then License to Kill.
I would definitely see. The thing is, if I was programming a series of films to appeal to the masses, I'd pick The Spy Who Loved Me. I would. I understand that it's commonly the favourite,
sure.
but it's not even. I don't like it that much. I prefer For Your Eyes Only,
sure.
And actually, I don't think it's a better film, but I think I enjoy Moonraker more, and I definitely like Live and Let Die more than it. So it's like struggling to be my fourth favourite Roger film. So I would struggle with that. And then, there was something else. Oh, with Tim, they chose The Living Daylights, and I like License to Kill and stuff like that. And the thing is, The Living Daylights was fourth one up, and I loved that film, but the last half hour was really boring with the Afghanistan stuff. And I just thought, if 4 in the morning, I'm going to be struggling. So
I was struggling towards the end of Daylights, unfortunately, because I do love it. But I just, at that time in the morning, I was like, oh, come on. And then, because, Casino Royale, epic film, I was like, I can't wait for it to end. It had 3 endings. I was like,
I mean, it's one of the more Flemingish films, The Living Daylights. It really is. But I will still argue till my dying breath that License to Kill is a better film. And so yeah, I mean, they chose the sort of selection for the masses, and I don't have a problem with that. But they aren't what I'd choose. And 6 in a row when there's a couple on there I'm not that fond of would be I'd struggle with that really badly.
Sure.
Oh, Roger's shit at fighting. No wonder they just knocked him out.
Yeah, he just got knocked out by a midget.
Yeah.
I mean, he can't be that good.
No.
Fucking hell, Nick Nack.
For a long period of time, he was one of the really, really highly regarded henchmen, though, Nick Nack.
He was, definitely.
I mean, as years have gone by, we've had more films, and this film isn't well thought of, so maybe less so, but I really like him, I do. But I hate this next sequence.
Well, he's a memorable character, isn't he?
He is. This next sequence does my fucking tits in, because it's the worst of Eon, and people lionize Cubby Broccoli now and Harry Saltzman and stuff, and I get why, but, like, it isn't a new thing, copying the thing of the day. And it's just like we're a year after Enter the Dragon and Bruce Lee dying, and even, you know, and it really bled into popular culture. You had stuff like Hong Kong Phooey and fucking high fat karate fucking aftershave and shit like that. Karate and like martial arts was a big thing in the early and mid 70s, and all of a sudden you got Bondier doing this, and I think it's embarrassing, to be honest.
I don't know. I mean, I understand your reasons why. But I remember as a kid kind of really enjoying it, like particularly because I remember when I first watched License to Kill, and there was a bit of me got really excited just by that sort of brief moment where it was Bond versus a ninja. It was like, you know, yeah. And as silly and as daft as it is, there's a little bit of joy to be had from it. But I get what you're saying. But you know, again, it's like, oh, okay, well, it's Bond versus, you know, Kung Fu, you know. Why not?
It's just the fact that, you know, 8 years before this or something, 9 years before this, you had one of the highest grossing films of all time at the time. And, you know, Bond ruled the world, and it was a leader. And from the 70s onwards, it just starts copying whatever's fucking popular. And the Roger Moore era is one of the worst for it. That just going
Star Wars.
Yeah. Absolutely. And actually, they've not learned after 50 odd years not to copy the thing of the day and not to start trying to outdo the previous film every time. No matter how many times they prove the opposite. You know, after Moonraker, they went into For Your Eyes Only, which doesn't notably really copy anything. Some of the music is of its time, but apart from that, it doesn't really copy anything. And it's a smaller film than the previous one and better for it. The Living Daylight's the same. Casino Royale, definitely the same. Quite a small film, Casino Royale, in terms of like the stakes and what they're all doing. You know, at Majesty's, after You Only Live Twice and stuff like that. Too. You know, they really have never learned what's right in front of their own face. That like every time you just copy what's popular and try to outdo the last one, you're gonna like shit the bed eventually.
This is why I'd love for them to go back and do some of the novels, you know, do some of the continuation books. I know that might not be the trendiest thing to do.
It's nothing to do with trend. It's nothing to do with trendy.
We'll need vastly updating. But
it's nothing to do with trendy, Becca. I was talking about this on I think it was a Politflix. I can't remember. I was talking on about it somewhere.
Sorry.
No, I just said that with the greatest of respect, it's the stupidest idea ever. Because the problem with it is that when you can read a book and really enjoy it and go, that would make a great film. And in isolation, that's brilliant. But like in 1963, when they said...
It would have been great.
In 1963, when they said James Bond will return in Goldfinger, the only thing you had to do to avoid knowing what was going on in the next film was not read Goldfinger. Whereas now, if they said the next Bond film was going to be like Icebreaker or something, just randomly picking a John Gardner one, yeah? If they said the next film is going to be Icebreaker, the plot would be all over the internet in 5 minutes. It would fucking ruin it. You can't do it. So you've then got the choice that you either randomly change the ending, like I Am Legend style, and ruin it, or you just take flavours of it, in which case it's not the book anyway, and die.
Then you've got things like, these are really bad examples, but like Hunger Games or Twilight, which is like some of the most, the most popular YA series there are, and they've done hugely well at the box office. So
and they do follow.
I think there are pros and cons. There are pros and cons, and also you've got other adaptations which perhaps haven't fared so well, which have been changed. Like The Spy Who Loved Me is very different from the book. Moonraker very different from the book.
But again, you're just
well, not very different, but
yeah, but you're taking a title. Then that's different.
Exactly.
But I mean,
there's a case for and against adaptations in general.
I don't care if they say the next film's going to be called Icebreaker and it's completely different. But the fact is, if they said we are going to adapt Colonel Sun, right? Just
Done
again,
already.
well, if they do that, I'll know within 5 minutes because I won't be able to resist either reading it or at least getting
You've seen
like
Spectre,
or a synopsis. So what's the point?
Already.
I do think it's a really, really bad idea. But that doesn't mean you can't. I mean, when they go and write a new book, they don't just like rewrite one of the other books or rewrite a film, do they? Why should a film be?
No, that's it. I mean,
there are so many talented screenwriters out there. What bothers me is they keep going to the same screenwriters. It's like, well, it's not that they're even bad. It's that like there's so many voices out there with like fresh ideas. Surely.
Yeah, exactly. No, I would agree with you there. I disagree on the other point, but I would agree there. Oh,
gotta love this trope that every person from
these
Hong
girls
Kong
can handle
knows kung fu.
themselves.
And like two
Over in
girls can
Thailand.
just beat like 20 guys.
I love the fact. Well, what they should just have like 4 out of every 5 of them are just carrying briefcases and going, "No, I don't know anything about fighting."
I'm sure films made that joke or addressed
I mean,
that at
look
some
where
point.
we are now. They want to put some kung fu into this. The kung fu is of not high standard anyway, or karate, sorry, not of a great standard anyway. And you got Bond stood there fucking watching. I mean, it's just like, have they not thought about that at all? Can you imagine if that was Connery or Daniel Craig? Can you imagine if that was Craig just stood there, like, cupping his chin, going, well, that's most interesting? It's like...
Oh, I don't know. I think someone would eat that shit up. But, yeah, I get what you mean. But it would have been handled differently back then. I think here it's like, as you say, it is kind of like, oh, well, that's just a kung fu. And Bond isn't known for being like a kung fu guy, so there it's like, oh, well, let's just someone else do that. And I think they kind of pull it off to a degree.
No, I mean, the one thing that is consistent between books and films, and there isn't a lot, is Bond was always a very, very good boxer and extraordinary pistol marksman. So he's an extraordinary shot and very, very good in hand-to-hand fighting.
I love that it's the rookie mistake of driving off without him. This whole thing's ridiculous, isn't it?
I know. But it's all in service of what as well? This is just utterly pointless.
It's good fun though. Good fun to watch.
Yeah, it's all right.
And you get to see some lovely Thai architecture and travel along klongs.
The problem is, even though, I mean, they can't help it, I suppose, and they haven't got like CG or anything, but the water looks filthy as well. And it's just like, this film just looks so drab. When I think of this film, I always think of it in like kind of a brownish colour palette.
Sepia tint.
Well, sepia implies kind of pretty and a bit romantic.
Nostalgia, but no.
No, this is kind of just
brown.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame, because it's so beautiful. And then obviously this guy who pops up is like 50,000 baht, or whatever
There
it
is
is.
a part of me that is surprised Roger Moore ever took this role. Because, I mean, he loved it, and he would still have been playing it right up to his death if he hadn't aged. Do you know what I mean? He adored it, and, you know, when they talked about, you know, then they recut that trailer of him in Spectre, and he was like, if only. He loved it. Yeah. So when I'm about to say he complained a lot, I don't mean it like that.
No.
Because he loved it. But the number of scenes he bitches about going, well, that isn't very me. I mean, the car off the cliff, he hated this, and he actually complained about this in his live show as well.
It wasn't very great, was it?
He said, well, it may be very James Bond, but it ain't very Roger Moore.
It's not.
He hated doing this. What am I pushing a kid off a boat for?
Exactly. And then obviously he became a UNICEF ambassador to save children all over the world. So.
Yeah, can you imagine they played that unlike his intro? Welcome, our newest ambassador, a great believer in children's rights. Here's a clip. Here's a clip. Roger Moore.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing that.
To be fair, the kid is kind of obnoxious and annoying. So
I know. Do you know we've got? Do you know we've got him involved in this? You will. You will, Becca. Do you know Chris?
No.
It was Audrey Hepburn.
Audrey Hepburn, yes. I can't. There's a quote. There's a reason why she got involved as well, and it's like the most heart-rendering thing. And I'll have to find it online.
Okay.
Pay attention to our Facebook page. Whenever I find it, I will post it. Obviously, because we're blocked out of Twitter at the moment.
We are blocked out of Twitter now. For anyone listening,
that's an absolute nightmare. Oh my god!
A lot of people will think we said something rude or something. We didn't. I tell you exactly what happened. Every time we change series, we change our Twitter date of birth to the first film in the series. So when we were Bond, it was October the 5th, 1962, because that was the release date of Doctor No. When we were Star Wars, it was May the 25th, 1977. When we were The Godfather, it was, I think, April-ish 1972 or March, something like that. We find the release date of the first film. We then make a value judgment on whether we choose, like, the US or UK release date. But Superman, it would have been December 78 and so on. Of course, we're about to move on to Marvel. So the funny thing is, I knew about the 13 rule. I did, but when I went to change our date of birth, it gave me the option of like newer than that, and I thought, oh, they've scrapped that rule then. Oh. So I changed it to the release date of our date of birth to the release date of Iron Man, which was May the 2nd, 2008, and then it said you're clearly under 13 and locked us out.
Nope. It happens. It happens.
It almost like it laid a trap for you to.
Well, yeah, because I would have thought, well, it's not going to let me go any younger than it allows.
I would have thought the same, Dave, so don't worry about it. And then what's the most frustrating thing is I've since tried to get in touch with him and say, look, what can we do about this?
The worst thing is, I chose a different date first.
I'm sure you did. It's not your fault, Dave. Don't worry.
I knew of the 13 rule, so I chose I think originally I chose the first publication of like the first Spider-Man comic or something like that, and I thought, no, that doesn't seem right. So I changed it and we got locked out. If we get back in, I'll change it to like Stan Lee's date of birth or something. But yeah, that's why we're locked out of Twitter at the moment. We're trying to fix it. Thing is, Becca, I set up our Facebook page, but Becca set up our Twitter. So it's all registered to like her name.
I sent my driving license, my provisional driving license off to bloody...
She's trying to sort it out for
Jack
us, and actually they're so busy because they're not very customer friendly. So you've got to go through like one path, and there's millions of us. Who knows when it'll be back up? It'll be back up at some point.
Yeah, hopefully it'll just. Luckily, we had an email back saying, "Oh, thanks, we've received your request. It'll be up again soon." But it's just the usual paths you can take. You can send them. You can send requests to help via direct messaging, which is closed.
It's the fact you can't have a dialogue with them.
Because
what you'd rather do is ring a helpline and say, this is what we've done. They'll say you can't do that. And we'll say, yeah, but we've done it for this reason. How can we pick a date of birth when there's three of us? They'll either agree or they won't agree. They'll see what they need to see, and then they'll unlock it and set the rules by which we need to operate.
Exactly.
But because we haven't got that, they're going to check Becca's driver's license and say, but you've put May 2008, and we don't know whether they'll go with that or not. We'll find out, I'm sure.
Coming soon on a future episode of Do You Expect Us to Talk.
All right.
The Twitter saga continues.
But yes, for the record, my fault.
Oh, no, Dave, it's not your fault. It's just we picked the wrong date.
Well, it was my fault in that I did it.
But don't blame yourself, Dave. Don't worry, it's not a problem. I would have done the same.
Well, it's only Twitter. If need be, it'll get sorted, and if it won't, we'll do a new account or something.
And we've got Facebook, and we've got a lovely email, doyouexpect@gmail.com.
The only thing is we had about 750 listeners or readers or something, so anyway.
I'm sure we could build them up again.
Keep an eye on our personal accounts.
Yeah, we'll...
Yeah, we all three of us tweeted what happened, so yeah, keep an eye on our personal accounts, except you might not know mine unless you read our Twitter feed, but from the early days.
This is kind of a funky design for a gun, though, isn't it? It's like, just made up of
very cool.
a lighter...
I kind of like this, though, because you'd have to get through customs and shit, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
No, this is like the ultimate Q gadget that Q Branch never designed. And plus, thanks for explaining the Twitter fiasco, Dave, because it saved me from having to moan about JW, who we'll see later on.
Yeah.
That's the point. Who do you recast as J.W. Pepper?
Oh, bloody hell.
If you were doing
if you brought him back, yeah.
Probably Will Ferrell.
Yeah, that would work.
That's not bad. Actually, I'd go for his longtime partner. I'd go John C. Reilly.
John C. Reilly, yes, definitely. And he's too busy being Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, because he can do both serious and kind of funny, and probably sort of like doing like a mixture of the two.
And he's more natural at a southern accent as well.
Yeah, he's probably got that, definitely. Yeah, either of those two, I reckon.
It's worth mentioning.
And be less obnoxious, I would have thought, as well. Or he'd be played more for laughs.
This is, of course, Harry Saltzman's last film in the series.
Yeah, they go their separate ways.
Yeah. Harry Saltzman was losing money hand over fist on different projects and stuff. Ended up selling his half to United Artists, which is now owned by MGM, obviously. Hence that. So hence Eon don't only have like half the say in production minus whatever you give to a distributor. which is one of the reasons it's a bit messy. Cubby wanted to buy his half, and he wouldn't sell it to him.
But slamming doors in the background, I apologise.
It struck me that they just behaved like fucking children at the end. No, you can't have it. It's like, after all those years and what they created, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, it does kind of go down as something that's really petty, doesn't it? It's not a shame.
Yeah.
Oh. Very serious moment.
I'm taking it seriously. I'm wearing a frown.
I quite like her dress, actually. It's a nice colour, anyway.
Turquoise.
I like that turquoise teal colour. It's very pretty.
It's what's inside that counts, Becca. It's so shallow.
It's not the third button or whatever it is that has the Homer.
The thing with Roger Moore's Bond is all his conversation is, how can I get a shag out of this?
Yeah, literally. How can I charm the pants off you? Literally. He's got to look at her in the clothes for.
But it was just, I just sometimes used to think, like, I don't know, with some of the Bonds, you feel like they'll take it if it comes along, they'll take it. But like Roger is trying to engineer it round to sex all the time.
That's what there's a huge dichotomy there about a character like there. She's just like, oh yeah, passing time is one of your fancies isn't quite my scene, and then later on, oh James, when's it my turn? Make your mind up, love.
Very beautiful woman, Brigitte Eklund, though.
Very pretty.
Well, yeah, she married.
I'd love to go to Thailand. I'd love to visit. It'd be an interesting country. Can't speak a word or read the language, but I'd like to go. I can say Sawadee-ka, that's about it.
Me and Chris can. We won't. We're not going to prove it.
No, yeah, it's simple. Just go over, just speak loudly and point at things. Yeah. You get exactly
what was it Ricky Gervais says? He said, you point at stuff, speak a bit louder. And if that
and it
doesn't work,
you trust to place
smash
up.
the place up.
Knowing the fact that you did your best, yeah.
That's what you're going to try and learn Japanese. I'm like, so.
It's the shoving her in a cupboard. He's one step away from saying, like, say if you see anything I do that you like.
I'll give you one later on.
Yeah.
There's a sneak preview, my darling.
Yeah.
Harry Saltzman, being a lecherous bastard, apparently was really disappointed because he hired her on the basis of The Wicker Man, and all the front shots of her in that were she was pregnant, so her boobs look bigger, and all the shots from the rear where she's dancing around naked are a body double. So when she turned up on set with like quite an athletic build, he was really disappointed. Apparently,
it wasn't quite as she imagined.
I don't know how you can see Britt Eklund to go, nah, that's not what I wanted.
Well, she's like, she's known for her looks being so beautiful, isn't she? So, as with Maud Adams as well. There's obviously a thing about Nordic ladies, or just the Swedes in general.
That's why I use the odd three pillow trick.
Oh, yeah.
The third pillow being some woman. It's
threesome, my dear?
It's amazing how like technology has changed in that, like, if you went into a hotel room now and that farty little TV was there, just in terms of screen size, I mean, you'd be
it's tiny.
What?
Isn't it?
It's like,
going on that TV?
Fuck is this shit?
The screen's the size of a fucking ashtray.
Yeah, it's teeny tiny. And it has buttons on it, children. Look, and there's a knob.
Yeah, we used to have to get up and change the channel.
Yeah.
When I say we used to have to, it stopped when we were very young. But like, my mother, when they were kids, you had to change the TV channel on the wall in the next room.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have to go next door to do it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, didn't remember that. I remember getting up and pressing the button on the TV.
You wouldn't remember that because it was the 1960s.
Well, because we had a really, really old TV. This was like, 80s and early 90s. And then having like the ginormous remote control with all the buttons. I'm so old that I can remember Channel 5.
Yay.
What, you remember Channel 5? Well, it's still around.
Spice Girls. Yeah, that was like 2000, I think, wasn't it? So.
Yeah. We're getting reports in of another mass shooting in the United States.
Yes, I've just seen that too.
Maryland, a newspaper.
Yeah, very sad. I just seen reports of in Bournemouth, police called to help more than 20 dogs trapped in hot cars in 1 week. So,
well, yeah, obviously United States isn't as hardcore as us. That pisses me off.
Any more tragic
conversely.
news? Any more tragic news? England losing 1-0 to Belgium.
They've lost 1-0 to Belgium.
Have they lost? Oh, fucking hell.
Yeah.
Hold on, doesn't it go... What about our fair play points, because we received less yellow cards?
Yeah, but they don't just give you points for that. It's only if it's a dead heat.
Well, I know, I wasn't quite sure.
They go through Colombia now, and their half of the draws. That half of the draw is easier. So in some respects, it's better.
To be fair, I did see a little bit of that game, and I think we were a little bit too defensive. Obviously, didn't know how it turned out, but I didn't obviously watch the rest of it because I was here doing this.
Well, I watched about
a little bit on the defensive side.
I watched about an hour of the last game just before the Grand Prix, and that was it.
Sure.
Not really bothered, but I did read tonight. I did read they'd made a load of changes tonight, and that struck me as they weren't bothered if they won or not, because the other half of the draw's easier.
Yeah, maybe that's why they kind of thought, meh. But then that's what cost Germany their game.
I don't know about you, Chris, but this happens all the fucking time. You're trying to shag one, and another one turns up, and you go, what do I do with her? You don't want to burn your bridges.
Well, I go to the usual, just lock one in the cupboard, give them a note of paper.
I tend to lock one in the cupboard because asking for a threesome's a bit forward, really, isn't it? So that's our top tip for lovers tonight. If given no signals, lock one in a cupboard.
And if they're lucky, they can have sloppy seconds.
Yeah. If they're really lucky, you won't last that long first time out, so they won't have to wait too long.
Even when Jake Crispin's relaxing, he looks sinister. He's just lying down in bed. He still looks like he's about to rise up like Dracula.
He's considering murder.
He does look like he's literally going to sort of like just spring up upright.
It was a double feature. There was cock and push there. Now, that's the first we've seen of this pointless fucking plot device.
So that's agitator. I think, again, that was kind of what was going on, obviously, because Britain was in the midst of energy crisis.
Yeah, we had 3-day weeks and stuff, but it didn't improve the film any, did it? And again, why have they not learnt this? I can understand that you don't want to set it in a period piece. You want to keep Bond kind of relevant. I get all of that.
It was relevant for the
time.
But
this constant looking around and going, right, what's happening?
Yeah,
all right, let's put that in a film, whether it fits or not, or whether it suits your plot or not. Half the time you end up feeling lectured, and the other half of the time it's a plot point they drop anyway. I mean, it ruined this film, and I have to say the whole lost disc thing wasn't exactly well followed through in Skyfall.
It wasn't really relevant by the time the film came out. Yeah, it was literally just like plot du jour, what's in the news right now. It
must be good. She left happy and your hair's not even messed up.
Yeah, despite doing it, they always look well coiffured.
Yeah. See, editing, that would have been more interesting if they'd been watching a video with him. Cuts to the crowd and they're like, yes.
Apparently this was done in a real live boxing ring, like the match was actually happening at that time. You know, it wasn't staged or arranged or anything, it was actually a real live match. So they tell you.
Mm.
Yeah, I didn't mean obviously to play down the fact that there has been another shooting in the States, but I just kind of saw it, elsewhere in the news. Very English news. But yeah, obviously the shooting is very sad.
Corpses never void their bowels in films either.
That's fun, folks.
She's in a white dress. She should be stinking and a bit stained.
Well, she might have relieved herself prior.
Yeah.
There we are. Chris, speaking from knowledge. of what might happen in that.
Yeah.
Speaking from knowledge, he read her autobiography where she said, "I had a shit before I filmed that."
I said I went to the bathroom before.
But yeah, she wouldn't be that still.
Sorry.
And there would be
No.
presumably more blood as well, like
Yeah.
sort of just leaking.
Yeah,
And
how was she
also-
upright? How did she not slump forward?
Yeah. And also, it's like, what should we put Roger in for this scene? I don't know. MASH?
Yeah, he does look like he stepped out of MASH, doesn't he? From Safari Suit into MASH.
See, it would have worked if they'd like injected her or something.
Yeah.
You would have
That
bought
would
that.
have
Good.
been
Oh right,
much
so
better.
something that's made
Not
of
a
like
shot in the heart.
yeah.
No. And yeah, why is she not slumped over? And I don't know.
She gives love a bad name.
Ba-dum-tsh.
All right, Bon Jovi.
My least favourite band of all time.
Oh, not a fan.
No.
Is that always the way?
I can hate that band.
Does it go down?
Why?
that
Why
path?
don't you like them?
It's rock music for people who don't like rock at
Oh.
all, I think.
I used to really like Bon Jovi.
Yeah, but back in the day, maybe, but not as much.
And he puts on this slightly macho voice when singing, which doesn't suit him because he's as fucking twee as fuck. The least macho human being ever.
Yeah, he's not very macho.
Romeo is bleeding.
Good night,
Can't
Chelsea.
see his blood.
Yeah, dreadful.
Oh, dear. That's so funny.
It's like a really, really girly girl with like flowery dresses and stuff says to her mum, "My boyfriend likes rock, and I need to play a rock. What rock? What's a good rock band?"
Oh,
She goes with Bon Jovi. Yeah.
that's quite funny.
So wasted in this though. Christopher Lee, I mean. He's hardly in it.
It's not even considering he's like the main villain in his.
Well,
his role
he's
as
given
the
a
title.
stupid plot as well. Like, oh, why the fuck would he want
He
something
wouldn't
like that?
want this. That's the thing. We're not bought that he would want it. At least with Silver, he just likes fucking shit up. I mean, very influenced by something like The Dark Knight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He likes a bit of anarchy. So you can understand that, like, and he wants to fuck M over. So you sort of get it there. Whatever the flaws of it and the fact they drop it, I totally get why Silver is, like, doing that with those discs. Here, no idea.
And it's just how like, oh yeah, I'll just take over your company and that by shooting you. Without any explanation.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do is just murder whoever that person is and you take over the company.
Yeah.
And then just say and just say to his like the employees, yeah, I'm in charge.
Is the company Klingon or something?
Probably.
Where's the Solex? I gave it to Goodnight. He hands it to Goodnight without telling her what it is, how important it is, or anything. He just goes, "Look after this."
So you are.
It could be his cigarettes for all she knows.
And she's not even the most like reliable agent, is she? Let's face it.
No, I thought that was unfair to do that to the character. Actually, it was very 70s Bond that they started putting women in like positions of power, but they were shit.
Well, they were just like the usual tag along Bond girl, and like and been put in a position of peril, and it was good enough reason for them to be like a female agent. It was a good reason for them to be involved.
Yeah.
So in this, it's like agent. Another one, it's agent.
I mean, she wasn't a great actress, but at least by the time of Anya, she was pretty good. It was only in the last 20 minutes they sort of tied her up and made her the ordinary fucking damsel. She was actually quite a quality agent before that, but yeah.
Wrong. Oh.
I think it's that I always think of the Roger Moore era as worse to women than the Sean one, and I'm sure that's not actually true. I think it's more that it's confused. I think it's more that they do get into positions of power or authority or influence,
and
then
just
are
lazy,
shit.
just like
Yeah,
don't think about it. Like
Whereas yeah, in the Sean era, we knew what they were.
I don't know. Yeah. So do you think maybe it was probably better back then?
No, I
Sure.
don't know. I don't know that would say that because there were more slaps and things like that. I'm not sure about that either.
Yeah, but if you take away those elements, which are probably more because they were in the book, really.
Difficult to say. Really difficult to say because you watch From Russia with Love, and he talks to Tanya like a silly little girl. You know, yes, James, and all that nonsense. The next film, he pretty much seems to rape pussy galore. Domino's pretty vacuous.
Yeah, he fucks her straight. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
so I'm not sure it's better, but I just know that when I look at the Roger era, it just feels more patronising somehow. I don't know. And I do not believe for a second he would go on holiday to Thailand. Whether accidentally ended up with some lady boy or something.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. Wait a minute. I know you. But no.
Maybe you got more wrong, Dave. Maybe he isn't as booted as you think he is. He's just an idiot.
Yeah. Plus, also, I know the public sector in the United States don't get paid that well. I can't imagine these sorts of holidays being.
No, I would say that'd be quite expensive. Even they change
their idea of a holiday is like 2 counties over, isn't it?
Especially with somebody I can't imagine. I think it's a real surprise because I can't imagine anybody like him even travelling outside his bayou, let alone his state.
I think that's what I mean. Yeah. And I don't know who was the production designer on this film, but I can't remember off the top of my head. It certainly doesn't feel very Ken Adam. Because at a concept level, you'd go, we've got this car, we're going to change it into a plane. And you think, that's a cool concept, I bet that's going to look amazing, and it really looks shit.
I think probably back in the day it did look incredible. So
I bet it didn't. I bet nothing about this film looked incredible at the time.
They did that with with Live and Let Die had a car boat. That's quite funny.
Live and Let Die is a better looking film than this, though.
Definitely.
They rushed this. Live and Let Die opened big. Like almost like in modern parlance, the opening weekend was big. So they got this into production too fast and rushed it.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Production design by Peter Merton.
Oh, right. The great Peter Merton.
The name means very little. Right.
Probably working with Ernest Liu now, 2 legends together.
There we are. Let's have a look. Known for Stargate, Thunderball, Goldfinger, Golden Gun, obviously.
Yeah. Some good looking films.
Blind Fury, King Kong Lives, Spies Like Us.
Spies Like Us.
Superman 3.
John Landis. Superman 3 wasn't a particularly good looking
Superman
film.
4. David Has Landed on Friday. And many more.
They were almost trying to redo the formula of the last one, because this is the boat chase, isn't it, really?
It is pretty much. It is literally just trying to follow that.
Yeah.
Art direction by Peter Lamont, who's very nice to talk to.
Yeah. Nice guy, supposedly, Peter Lamont.
Shane Rimmer was there. I do regret not seeing him.
Oh yeah, because your Thunderbirds and all that as well. He's responsible
I kind of feel
for
bad.
2 of the things you love.
I would like to kind of speak to him about it, but I kind of heard that he doesn't like to talk about it these days.
What,
so
Thunderbirds, really?
Well, I may be wrong on that one. I was speaking to somebody else and they go, "Oh no, it'll be fine, it'll be fine." So I didn't. And plus, he was quite busy. He was quite popular. So I thought every time I went to speak to him, I was a line, and I thought, "Oh, I'll wait." But I saw him, hey ho, and did a bit of a Q&A, so that was interesting. But what are you going to do? But I can die happy now. I can take Pinewood off my list, and I can say that I've done it, and that's it. Draw a line underneath it. But yeah, I see what you mean about the kind of the whole like wash of this film. It just gave it into kind of like sort of the golds and the tans, and it's kind of like when I think of the 70s, I tend to think of like I'm sure I kind of remember like there's this photo of like my dad on his 18th birthday, and oh god, this is a famous scene coming up, and the wallpaper is not too dissimilar to
we know
JW shirt, and it's just oh my god.
Yeah, but we know the styles and fashions are horrible. We know that. But what I mean is, you look at the 60s film stock and restoration and
so
the beautiful way, it's just really pops, whereas this just looks drab.
Yeah.
And actually, 2 films later, Moonraker looks gorgeous.
Again.
So, as a
use different film stock, I don't know.
Could be, I don't know. Spy looks decent. Moonraker looks amazing.
What?
In the current restorations and sets.
I think from Martin Order on the tracks of 007, they've recently found this location because it was one of the very last few that they hadn't been able to find. But I think now recently
surprised they couldn't find it. You'd think
somebody has found it.
You think it would be in production notes and stuff.
No, apparently it wasn't. Unfortunately. And so, they
I wouldn't expect that bridge to be still there because
I don't think it is.
They probably saw something in reality that gave them the idea, and then they would have built this like reinforced version of it because that's not going to be That's not going to be just a naturally occurring.
Like that. No.
Yeah.
I
sure am, boy.
Roger, you can't do accents. Would it?
I don't think it was the point. Just think that's one of the blessings of doing the commentary. You get to see that stuff about the stupid sound effects.
And they got this twat in the back there like that. I really hate this character.
Just sweating the place up. Look at him.
I know. It's like he reminds me of Benny Hill as well.
It is a little bit Benny Hill, definitely.
And I'm one of those that never fucking found Benny Hill funny at all.
Yeah.
You could have watched that entire sequence with that theme tune, though.
Yeah.
I had that tune. Yeah. I think Ernie is quite funny, but yeah, I don't like all the sexism and sweaty jokes.
Well, no, apparently, like that was a big thing with gangster rappers. They love Benny Hill, like people like Snoop Dogg, like really.
It's like he was like that in real life. He used to get the Hills Angels to wank him off and stuff like that. Horrible bloke by all accounts. Not all of them, but there were some of them in that situation apparently. Because what she called from Frasier was a Hills Angel at one point, Daphne.
Really? I only that. Wow.
So I'm not accusing her of that.
Oh god, no.
But apparently, yeah.
He pops up in the Italian Job, doesn't he?
He's the same basic principle as when I used to look at Roger Moore. I just think like that guy is literally thinking about sex the whole time. And I feel that way about like Benny Hill. I've got a very sexual sense of humour, but it's like fucking. I do think about other things sometimes.
Yeah, that's where you draw the line.
Like for fuck's sake.
I think it was just that kind of humour, wasn't it?
Yeah, I just never found him that funny. I really didn't. I mean, of the sort of 70s British like comedians who kept getting series after series after series, like Dave Allen and the two Ronnies are the sort of only two I really love.
Oh yeah, Ronnie Barker was. I think he was a genius.
Yeah, well, there was lots of wordplay in that, and that's timeless.
Very clever.
And Dave Allen was an absolutely fantastic stand-up comedian. But even stuff like Morecambe and Wise hasn't dated very well, and they didn't write any of it either. It was all written for them.
I think some aspects were quite funny, though. I mean, there's the kitchen scene where they're making breakfast, and it's all kind of timed.
Yeah, which gets on my tits. It's timed, Kevin. I never found it funny, though. I found it clever, not funny. It was one of those things I'd look at and go, that's clever. And that's
it. It doesn't make you laugh.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas the two Ronnies I frequently laughed at.
Yeah, definitely. They're both clever and funny. I think they're probably, that's the reason why they're the most enduring double act. I'm still going literally up until they both passed away.
All of that was for no particular reason at all, that whole sequence.
It's just so you could reveal the car boat, not the car plane.
I think it's just a poor script in the day, isn't it? Just no.
It's a rush script, isn't it? They're just filling time.
We just like, we'll come up with some set pieces.
We do an action sequence there.
Yeah.
Yep.
That looks terrible. That just looks awful.
Chitty chitty bang bang.
Roger acting there, look.
With the eyebrow.
Stop shouting, you prick.
Shut the hell up, GW.
Well, at least he never came back. That's the worry. I mean, Guy Hamilton was attached to the Spy Who Loved Me to start with. He'd have
been very close.
He would have brought this prick back again.
He would have done.
And made another really lazy fucking film.
GW.
We'll see it later in the sort of towards the end of this film. There's loads of really lazy sequences where you think, shoot that again for fuck's sake. Sony.
Yeah, Sony, number one sponsor of this film.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen now with that.
Which is fine. Yeah, no, that's going to be interesting, isn't it? That's going to...
What? So we're not gonna have like Sony products in there?
Well, they might do a deal with Sony. They might still do, but
They've gone to Universal at the moment, haven't
obviously
they?
they're gone
Which is
to
something nobody
Universal.
ever saw coming.
Well, that was apparently 11th hour. That was Warner's
Yeah.
were in pole position right to the end.
And then they went, nope. So Universal had it instead. I hope they do a good job.
Well, they're just distribution. It depends how much input they have.
Well, exactly. This is it. Like
Certainly, the film series could be better promoted than it is. So let's see.
they hold the there's some anime titles, for example, and that is just absolutely shocking. They're just sat on some really classic titles, and it's like, when will you release them? And it's just like, it's like, so this is why I'm a little bit when it comes.
I'm not worried about that. They're not going to not
different
release
mode.
one, are they?
Well, no, but I'm still thinking, So just because they're
I mean,
releasing,
really, all they've got to do, they've got to do deals in each country for basically what the cinemas get, and how many weeks, and
Sure, yeah.
and what screens. It fundamentally, it should not affect us at all.
It'll be fine.
And it's a one-film deal, so they're not going to have that much input. They'll be on their best behaviour. If Eon said they want to make that film for mediocrity, where it's just a bumhole farting for 2 hours, Universal will say yes, because they want a long-term investment in this series. So they'll say they won't antagonise Eon. We'll have some of the same stuff we've had before, so there'll be Heineken deals, probably Bollinger or Moe or something like that. There'll be there'll be product placement. There always is, but it's just whether it'll be Sony. Possibly not this time. Don't know. Wouldn't surprise me if they do something with Apple or something like that. I'm not quite sure how important the distributor is. I don't know. I know Sony, by the time of the leaks on the last one, were having quite a lot of say, but I don't know that that's always the case. So even this looks drab, such a beautiful part of the world, and they've made this look a bit shit. Mm-hmm. This all looks better in Tomorrow Never Dies.
GoldenEye even.
Did they film some of GoldenEye down here?
Well, no, just like the plane going over a jungle area.
Well, no.
Actually filming in Thailand was Tomorrow Never Dies, It was, yeah.
It's a little bit, it's a drab day, and he's just gone, go right ahead, whereas some directors wait for better weather and things like that.
Yeah, it's just a little bit cloudy overcast, I guess, but very pretty.
Yeah, it reminds me of Richard Lester with like the redo of Superman 2. They're at the Eiffel Tower and it's raining, and it's like, no.
You didn't do it. No.
Wait a bit.
This is in one of them like Bondi's short YouTube clips, isn't it?
Is it?
That guy looks like he's in drag. That looks like a woman with a fake mustache.
It does. It does, unfortunately. It did. No, I feel believing.
Yeah, there's a bit when he lands on the on the bay, and then you see Scaramanga blasting a plane that's like on later.
Oh yeah, as he lands, yeah.
But it just makes you think, why don't you just fucking do that anyway?
I know. Oh god.
My favourite one is still the first one. Pierce Brosnan going, how long did you say the fuse was?
That's quite funny.
And it just blows up, but it cuts to like Skyfall, because you've got Judi Dench stood outside, and she just looks disappointed, doesn't she? In context of that, she just looks like she's going, oh fuck.
Oh, bugger.
Guy Hamilton always looks a bit lazy in these later films. There was a fly on Roger's arm a second ago, and you just think, do that again. And there's a lot of it towards the end of the film. He runs off in Goodnight. He stretches his hand out, and Goodnight's not there, and they don't correct that. I mean,
yes, or maybe the Blu-ray that could be a lot to answer for, or the restoration.
Yeah, hang on a minute. We used to watch it in cinemas on 35mm. That's higher resolution than Blu-ray.
Sure. Certainly.
Blu-ray, you're only comparing it to watching it on TV or something.
Bang! That's it. Explosion.
Must be nightmare calling in a pizza or something.
Shit, I want to get some milk, for fuck's sake.
Bugger.
I've run out of Lambert and Butler.
Run out of Red Stripe.
Because he's a classy guy. This is how lazy he is. He shoots the top off this now. Perfect Village gets fucking soaked, and I just think, like, do it again. Angle it a bit different. It just looks like... Or was it this shot? Yeah, it was just... I just feel like, oh, fuck's sake. Now, they were on a bit of a rush time scale with this one, but it doesn't do Guy Hamilton any favours, this film, at all. Certainly the last half hour. There's a scene later on with Nick Nack and Bond where it's really bad.
So he brings them a drink, they don't even fucking drink it.
That's the one thing about Quantum of Solace. We actually do see Bond, like, fucking hammered. It's like, you know, like we do see the logical outcome of all this drinking.
And I'm sorry, that tweed jacket does not suit the climate, I would have thought.
Where are we going? Thailand. Okay.
Like, Christopher Lee's dressed in, like, kind of light sort of clothing, which I would have thought.
Like cottons, nylons, yeah.
Yeah, he's just like, nope, full winter wear.
But you can see why, only about 5 years before, Lazenby's being told, look, Bond is so old-fashioned. I mean, they were wrong, but you can see why. It's like, come on, look at this guy dressed up like it's fucking Sunday best all the time, you know what I mean? But of course, that was going into an era fashion for God. Because Bond in a suit now is fairly timeless, but back around this time, it was starting to look really old hat, I imagine.
Well, I think it was at that time when it was going to be tested, isn't it? Because I imagine suits weren't necessarily like the gold standard back then. I think probably in the 70s you had like a bit of a, like the hippie revival, like a bit of a backlash, like wanting to break free from that.
Counterculture, yeah. Yeah, so a nice, neat side parting and all the rest of it would have been kind of the way we look at Alan Partridge now, do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Whereas, like, now it's kind of like, actually, it's lasted through the decade, so we kind of, a suit's kind of like a good baseline for everything.
Absolutely. They copied this as a set later, didn't they? They copied this as a miniature to blow it up later, and it looked phenomenal.
See, this looks like very similar to Dr. No.
It does. I suppose there's a bit of Dr. No in the DNA of this film anyway, isn't there?
But again, no railings. On certain parts. Why would there be no railings?
I don't know.
They've got one guy controlling all that machinery. That's how we can afford to live there, by not applying.
Yeah, they've got a shaft on it.
Yeah, shafts on there, twiddling knobs are arbitrarily.
Quite a tall guy, wasn't he, Christopher Lee?
He was.
I don't think I've ever really realised he's taller than Roger Moore.
Roger's quite tall, and then
Roger's about 6'1.5", 6'2", something like that.
So he must have been, what, 6'5"?
Getting that way. Unless it's just the way they're stood.
Roger's just very far away.
Yeah. Roger's in London and Christopher Lee's in Plymouth, and they're shooting this into a point. So.
It was a very large set.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what's Scaramanga's plan here? Like, he's got the big laser gun that's on an island that he can't shoot.
And he's bought a massive cheese grater there, look.
That is one big cheese grater. Or like one of those garlic crushers.
So I think he's going to cook a really big pizza.
Yeah, really big omelette.
Yeah. Well, it's something to do with the power of the sun or something, but it's never clear what he wants, what he's going to do with it. And at the end of the film, if you notice, there's really no danger. Actually, Roger and like Goodnight could have just fucked off and nothing would have happened.
Right,
Nothing of any danger.
I think it's planned something to do with like harnessing the power of the sun and sending it to like a bidder.
What you can do? Sell it in boxes. Here,
Well, exactly.
have a box of the sun.
It's like the sun is, all powerful. Anyone can do it.
Yeah, if I remember right, it was just basically sort of like usual company stuff. It's like, well, actually, what's actually illegal about it? I mean, he has a high power laser, but how can he use that against anyone?
Harnessing solar energy instead of all those fossil fuels. What an evil bastard!
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, how can he use it though? Like, dreadful. It's like, okay, just don't go near the island. Fine.
Thunderbirds, go.
It is literally.
Does look dreadful, but
it's like when there's a roof on Wimbledon and somebody played the Thunderbirds theme music. Oh yes, that's classic.
Yeah, but at least it looks like a real roof.
But it did. It was actually a real roof, definitely. It's the opposite of Quantum, isn't it? Obviously, he wants to shore up all the water in such like a water poor zone, But it's like the opposite. Obviously, the sun is.
It's not like he's shutting off the real sun. I mean,
exactly.
the Quantum of Solace
Useless.
thing. He's got control of all the water, and it's pay or you'll all fucking die.
Exactly, it's the opposite of.
That's a way more dangerous plot. It's almost a bit too real world in some respects, but like that's a real world plot. This is bollocks.
Yeah, the fantasy. Is it just real?
Yeah, this is the James Bond dies thing. They edit him pulling up in the plane, and then cut straight to this, removing any shots of Roger Moore stood there.
And dead. And they got the GoldenEye "You Are Dead" scene.
As I say, the funniest two are very similar. You've got the wolf whistle from The Living Daylights, where they actually dub it with the end of the wolf whistle. He says, "What? Mine's a wolf. Yours is a wolf whistle. You mean like?" And then he does the noise, and MI6 blows up. And then the first one, you've got the pen from GoldenEye. Clicks it 3 times, and then he clicks it 3 times to switch it off, hands it to Bond. Bond clicks it 3 times and says, "How long do you say that fuse was?" And then it cuts to outside, MI6 blows up, and M's just stood there going like, "Oh." It's great. Thing is, he's going to have to replace everything there within a couple of years because it's going to be so desperately unfashionable within that time.
Yeah, it's a bit dodgy.
Yeah, Harry Saltzman looked at that and was disappointed. Tosser.
He might be disappointed by their acting.
No, he was disappointed when she turned up on set with that build.
I know. A nice salad with salmon mousse by the looks of it.
And red wine, which is just odd.
Yeah.
Slightly reminiscent of a 34 Mouton.
Hang about. Does that mean Scaramanga's a Russian spy?
Are they eating fish? Well then, I would say with vegetables, should you not have white wine?
You know he's wrong one when he have red wine with...
The fish, yeah, he's wrong on. He's a Russian agent.
Well, actually, red wine with salad doesn't go well. You know, you need something.
Doesn't really go well at all, actually.
You need rosé or white wine.
Yeah, I would say if you're gonna if you're not gonna have white, you can have rosé. So.
I think rosé should all be incinerated. It's fucking gopping.
Oh, I like rosé.
Yeah, that's for people who don't. You don't like other wine, do you? Very much.
No, rosé can be nice.
Rosé.
Yes, some rosé. I don't know rosé. Some rosé
tends to be liked by people who don't like wine.
I prefer the only one I don't like is dry wine. I went to a holiday to Spain and had some not very nice red dry wine, and I'm not a big fan of that's why I don't like martini because it's just. Ugh.
You should persevere because it's about to get so good. I promise.
But no, I prefer if I'm gonna go, I would probably drink white wine. Obviously, because I don't eat
dry wine spritzer.
Dry wine spritzer. That's it, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't like dry drink.
I prefer a wanked off, not fingered. When I've got only when there's some egg whites available. Yeah. Not the yolks. I'm not a savage.
Not yolks. Egg whites even. Yolk, you have more protein in there.
No, I just make a heavy cholesterol omelette to go with it.
Oh, dear. I like how he doesn't blank. I like how he doesn't blink.
I like how he's not Martin Blank from Grosse Pointe.
How he's not playing blankety blank. How he doesn't blank his blank, so he can blank his blank.
Yeah. A quick round of the super match game right now would be great.
Yeah, I meant blink, not blank. Because I'm tired.
Quick, put the camera on someone else. I need to fucking blink.
Super match game, super match game, super match game.
Super match game?
Oh dear.
No, let's eat this shit.
This is shit that you prepared.
And I'm not going to take off this ridiculously warm jacket because it's my sweat marks will show.
Yes, if it's degrees outside, what the hell do you think I'm doing?
The collars date this film terribly.
Oh god.
Their collars are down to their fucking knees, look.
They're massive, aren't they? But they look so stylish.
That was the 70s, like big flares.
This shot here is going on the YouTube. Just him staring at her. That's what's going on the YouTube version of this show.
It's like,
it's kind of like a bit pervy, but also mildly unimpressed.
Yeah. He's like, I would, and if I'm going to be fully cognizant of what I'm taking on, so I'm going to have a good look.
Yeah.
But I'm not that bothered.
It's almost like Henry Saltzman.
Yeah.
It's like, kind of, but I'm disappointed.
Kind of, but yeah, let's have a look at it.
Well, I would recommend The Wicker Man. That scene must have made an impression on me from The Wicker Man, because I can still remember the song she sings. It really sticks in your head.
It's eerie, especially when she's like... You see,
it's beautiful though.
She starts naked,
eerie.
banging on the door, singing, and it's
she's trying to tempt him. Edward Woodward's like a virgin for like religious reasons,
and he's Catholic as well, isn't he?
Yeah, something like that. He's a virgin till he marries, sort of thing. And he's next door, and she's just trying to tempt him, and she's singing like the Call of the Sirens, effectively. And she's banging on the wall, like in time with her singing.
Yeah,
and the song just sticks in your head because it's eerie, but it's kind of beautiful at the same time.
Yeah, it is really.
As you said, she is an effect.
It's hypnotic, isn't it? It's really kind of, and you see the anguish, and I think that's also what's kind of chilling about it. You see, like, Edward Woodward just be,
because he's getting desperate. You know, he's really like, what do I do?
Yeah,
and there's a cut, and she has taken people's virginities as well, because in the longer cut of the film, which is about 15 minutes longer, he's there an extra night effectively. And she's like asked to like effectively like initiate some young teenager or something. So it is kind of what she does. When you find out in that film, virginity is kind of a bad thing to have on that island. It's a great film. I'm not going to say any more than that. It's a great film.
I don't know if it's on the director's cut or the original or something, but she does actually say, I called for you last night as well, or something like that.
I can't remember.
But
I haven't seen it for a while. The director's cut has a load of like effectively video quality grade footage in it, because basically half of it was built, buried under the M1 or something. A load of Christopher Lee says that film was butchered. He was disgusted by it. Having said that, what you're left with is like an 84-minute film or something that is still really, really good. The Wicker Man, for anyone who hasn't seen it.
Yeah,
the 1973 version, not the Nicolas Cage one.
The Nicolas Cage version is terrible.
Though it is kind of funny if you want to see.
But I mean,
if you want to
I don't have a problem with films being remade, so I'm not going to slate it. But you need to go and find the 1973 version with Edward Woodward, Britt Eklund, and Christopher Lee.
And what makes it beautifully tragic is it would have saved him had he gone to her.
Yeah, had he gone to her, he'd have been all right.
Yeah, it would have saved his life. But no, he was steadfastly devout to his religious beliefs.
He was just like me. He was steadfastly, devoutly not getting any.
But then again, had he known, he probably would. I would have thought that would have been like the deciding factor. But obviously, he wasn't aware that.
Well, of course he would. Yeah, he wasn't aware at all. She was just tempting him.
You'll get a phone call from Britt tomorrow. Hello, Dave.
Magnificent. Yeah, but I'm not a virgin. She doesn't have to.
Well, no, but she might phone you up and go.
And I love the bit they're doing all these rituals with these naked women jumping through fire and stuff.
I don't mean to be mean, but I don't think.
And they say to him, Lee says something like,
"Oh, I think Dave's broken up."
No, I didn't break up. I stopped because you were talking.
Okay, sorry.
That doesn't matter. I was just saying there was a bit in the film where they were jumping through fire. And he says to him, they're jumping through fire naked, and Christopher Lee goes, well, it wouldn't be sensible to do it with clothes on. It's kind of dryly fun. It's dryly funny as well. He's Lord Summerisle in it. Best thing he ever did.
It's
This is me, the command. Are we going to talk all the way through about Golden Gun?
Yeah, absolutely.
The soundtrack's eerily joyful, actually.
In Golden Gun. It
is, that's true.
It's really, really great. I can't recommend it highly enough. And if you get an opportunity, watch it in a double bill with Don't Look Now. the Donald Sutherland Julie Christie film.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
They were made separately. They were made by different people, but in the early 70s, they started being like toured together as a double bill, like Roadshow. And Don't Look Now was always the second half of the double bill. So I strongly recommend watching the 1973 version of The Wicker Man and then the 1973 film Don't Look Now with Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie. Watch them together with maybe a 10-minute break between the two of them. Absolutely brilliant, both of them. And they both they're very different films, but they make you feel the same way.
I'd recommend the story of Don't Look Now as well. Terrifying.
Yeah. Daphne du Maurier.
Yes, classic. Also, obviously the birds and many other classic stories.
Yeah, and then they were these feckin' birds! That's the direct quote from her work.
From Father Ted.
Feckin' birds.
Fucking birds!
Now, why is he stood on the set of Star Trek, look? You imagine Shatner... Shatner should be holding... Do you remember that shot of, like, Shatner holding that big rock penis that went out as a meme? That's what he looks like.
Either that or Doctor Who.
Especially with, like, the, 1950s gangsters. It's like, when you go to that gangster planet or something like that.
A piece of the action, yeah.
Yeah, a piece of the action, I was going to say.
Great episode.
Are they still on Netflix?
I think so.
I might have to go back and watch them all again.
Yeah. You got to be careful what you watch in the original series, because it's absolutely amazing in places, but, like, maybe a third of it's dreck.
Oh, he's moved.
Oh, that was it.
Okay.
There's your...
I think... Yeah, there's your...
Oh, he's got some ketchup.
No, somewhere there is a naked mannequin of Roger Moore.
I wonder, that mannequin he had at the beginning, I wonder if it's anatomically correct. I never see that anatomically correct mannequin.
I'll be able to guess at the size of his penis.
We have one at work that's nearly correct.
Ouch.
That looked painful.
That looks quite painful.
He'll come out as the Joker in a minute.
Yeah, he just come out like Boris and go, I have invincible.
Absolute zero doesn't fucking exist anywhere. It's theoretical. Minus 271 or something. Absolute zero is like Kelvin, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, they didn't do any scientific research.
Absolute zero must be maintained.
Absolute. Prevent prompt criticality.
What they mean is 0 degrees C, probably.
Yeah. They didn't think of that when they painted that sign.
Never thought about that before.
The signs of Bond.
Well, yeah, it doesn't make sense anyway. Absolute zero. What the fuck does that even mean?
Absolute zero is 0 Kelvin. You need to look it up. It's minus 271 degrees. There's literally no energy at that temperature at all. I don't know if it exists anywhere in space, but it's like theoretical on Earth. See, I don't buy that. I'll give things a bit more of a pass because it's just a fun Bond film. But when they put something in that makes no sense at all, I've got very, very little respect or time for, oh, forget it, it's a Bond film. It's like, well, it's still a fucking script. Yeah. It's still like, that doesn't make sense, let's write it correctly. I don't have a lot of time for that argument at all. Because I just think it gives writers a pass to do subpar work. Just go, it's only a Bond film. Well, what does that fucking mean?
I think, yeah, I mean, I agree. It depends on how much... I think a film has to earn its right to go like, yeah, okay. Or if it's like a minor thing, you just go like, oh, well, it doesn't affect it that great deal.
Everything's got a plot hole in it somewhere.
Yeah.
Everything. So it's not that I expect perfection, but there are sometimes things, we got it with Goldeneye, we've had it tonight, where you just go, that makes no sense. And you know, I'm only joking.
I mean, I feel that way about the entirety of Skyfall.
But when Becca says, like, well, never mind, it's a Bond film, it's like, no, sorry, no.
I think that was my entire problem with Skyfall. Was like, It was like, it seems to be, with the whole thing's all quality, but the whole thing was just like, oh, it's a Bond film, so it doesn't matter if it makes sense. Well, it kind of does.
Yeah. That doesn't mean picking on every tiny thing, obviously. No. But I mean, the whole point of like, what's Scaramanga want here? What's it for? There's no point to any of that, and I'm afraid it's a Bond film doesn't wash. It's very poor.
And the fact that Bond's in peril because.
Sorry, Becca, go on.
No, actually, my point was really big. You know, it's all fantasy, and you have to take it with a pinch of salt, and you know, you can't really take it that seriously.
You're not entirely wrong, Becca, at all. I get what you're saying. I'm not saying you are entirely wrong.
At the same time,
but there are times in films where you just think that is fundamentally badly structured, and then you go, "Well, it's a Bond film," and it's like that doesn't quite wash. I'm afraid. I mean, this is bookended by two better films. I'm not the biggest fan of The Spy Who Loved Me, but like both that and Live and Let Die are markedly better films than this.
Push all the buttons with your Bond. Good night.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad effect. That does actually. The miniatures aren't so good, but the ray in front of him looks kind of
realistic. That's pretty cool.
But the film should have ended now. The whole thing was Scaramanga. Who gives a shit about this stuff?
Yeah, the Solex is kind of like an afterthought, really.
Yeah.
Push that button with your Bond. Well done. Yay. You silly boy.
I suppose that answers the question of why he landed with some cloud in the sky.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
You planned it well. Phew. Hottest weather in 5 years. Oh my god.
What, here today? Yeah, it is. I imagine to some of our listeners in warmer parts of the world this would be nothing, but to us, where it was freezing cold a couple of months ago.
Having the mercury hit 30 degrees, bloody hell, that's quite warm.
It's too hot for us, yeah, it is.
Yeah, especially because we were dealing with the beast from the east in March.
Well, the thing is, yeah, when it gets into like the 90s in sort of North American parlance, we really struggle, whereas some people, and the other thing is our workplaces aren't set up to deal with it.
Our homes aren't set up to deal with it.
Yeah, we haven't got air conditioning. We're used to it being cold, so we've got like radiators, we've got gas central heating. So basically, we crack a fucking window open, and that's the best we can do. It's way too hot.
Get a fan or something.
The aircon that we do have in some places, it doesn't compare to the aircon in the States.
No, it doesn't. But even outside, we'll struggle in temperatures a lot of people wouldn't, because we just don't get it. There. He went to reach for her hand and she wasn't there, and it's like nothing was blowing up from that angle. The explosion's from this. So they could have reshot it, but the director's too fucking lazy.
Maybe they ran out of money, we don't know. This could be asked.
Yeah, 7 million budget. Now Thunderball was made for more than that, so they were starting to get a bit cheap by this stage. Spy was where they started ramping it up. And then Moonraker, they really turned the taps up. But all this
have
stuff
to top the next one.
Yeah. Thing is,
in space.
I would never argue it's better, but I think I actually enjoy Moonraker more than Spy.
Mm.
It's not better because it's got none of the sort of like flourishes, and it doesn't have that amazing pre-title. It doesn't have as good a song. There's lots to it that like Spy's got. It's got all the touchstones, but Moonraker like consistently entertains me more.
I think Drax is probably a big part of that as well.
Drax is a huge part of it because I think Spy's quite a poor villain. Drax is great, isn't he?
Mm. He has all the great villain lines.
I didn't like him as a kid.
Yeah, he's a bit dry, isn't he? A bit too drab.
That's what it is.
He is a bit dry.
Comes off as boring when you're a kid.
He's not. He's French, but like he doesn't have any sort of physical disabilities. Or no, I'm just not that's like a thing to have. But like if you look at majority of Bond villains,
when you're a kid, he looks
like the foreign. They've got some physical attribute that is.
But not only that, because they put him in a coat which is very reminiscent of the Nehru. I don't know if it is a Nehru, but it looks like one.
Yeah, it looks like a Nehru jacket. Doesn't
it? He looks like a lazy copy of what's come before. Mm. And actually, as you get older and listen to him, it's like, no, actually, you're really good. And even though I love For Your Eyes Only, For Your Eyes Only doesn't have an iconic villain. And I don't think...
That's more of a twist. It makes you think, doesn't it?
And Octopussy, I like Louis Jourdan, but it doesn't really either. So you think there probably hadn't been a really great villain for a while. And wasn't for a while afterwards.
I think Louis Jourdan, he's a bit underused, considering like Christopher Lee, he used to play Dracula.
Yeah.
Again, he's underused. He does have some great silky villain lines, as Tony Black says, but just not enough of them.
Yeah,
I mean, the problem with this is like he's a bit of a leftover, but he isn't really a huge threat. So you kind of don't care. It's just kind of like okay.
And they're not consistent either, because it's like, well, what does he want? Well, is he? I think he does love Scaramanga. Actually, I think it's just more if you do die, the big plus is I get this. And I'm happy to keep you sharp by giving you real challenges.
Well, yeah, just blowing the place up.
But this is really lazy because he ends up like smacking him on the bum. And this bit in a minute where he goes over to that's crap. And then he goes over to the bottles. So he comes out of there and smacks him on the bum. You think, well, come out a different way and fucking stab him. And then he goes over to the bottles in a minute, and they're obviously like there. Like, what's that? Just pushing him on the bum. He could have fucking stabbed him in the spine. But he goes over to these bottles now, and they're already leaking. They're already leaking because they're sugar glass.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you will have got some spares. Do it again. And that's why I look at Guy Hamilton as fundamentally quite a lazy director, because Diamonds was really lazy as well.
Yeah, it's like if you can see it and hear it, the mistake's okay.
Yeah. And you know, I'm not the biggest lover of the Lewis Gilbert films, but they never felt lazy like this.
Bit John Davis, maybe.
They had better lines as well, but then that's Tom Mankiewicz.
Oh God.
I don't see the point of this, and I can't imagine Sean doing this.
Look at the mess of that place, all that broken glass.
I know. Really, he should be doing her over the back of there now, shouldn't he? There's all glass in our room. The film finishes with the boat going off and him just hanging out the back.
You didn't. What, drown him?
I did, I fucked him. I mean, no, I... What, are you down there, love, I said?
Perfect height.
Where were we? Well, I was just stroking you here, and you were...
You know, I just really thought it would be funny if he just like locked in a cupboard and just fucked Nick Nack. Sorry, midnight, duty calls. I need to pump in for more information.
He delighted me with a wonderful aperitif. Oh no, this is Batman. You picked up the wrong phone.
Good night, sir.
Hold on, sir. She's just coming. It would be odd if all the Bond films felt like this now. It feels like it would feel odd if they did. We haven't had one end like this since Die Another Day.
Yeah.
No, it would be a bit weird. I think it would be very unbecoming of Craig's era.
It hasn't ruined it, and it isn't political correctness per se, because he still fucks around quite a lot. It's just they end a bit less cheesily.
Why does it say M? That's a bit weird.
Who says M?
Well, on the phone there's a letter M or W, depending on which way you look at it.
Oh, I don't know. Never noticed that.
Oh, a bit weird.
I mean, yeah. I mean, firstly, the Spectre did end that way, but it wasn't with a sex scene. It was but.
She's giving him a little handy as he drives off. And then you see the car at the end of the road just swerving to a building.
You see a head go towards the lap.
And then the car heads down the road and it just swerves off the road and you just hear, oh! All the time. Well, not anymore, I finished. Yeah. The American Film Show.
Yeah, I'd like to go and see the American Film Show. That was good fun.
You don't often see a freeze frame anymore, do you?
That's cool.
The gun was made by a lighter company, look.
They were pretty good assholes.
Yeah, that's cool.
In England, don't you know?
Yeah. Good Night was in the books. I don't think I'm not sure Good Head was, but Good Night was. Didn't she take over as secretary or something like that? Because it's Lelia Ponsonby or something, and I'm sure it comes along at some point.
Well, yeah, that's who Goodnight was meant to be, and also we had Lil.
Yeah. I always used to read it. I misread it. I always thought it was Loella Ponsonby, but it's actually Lelia when you look at it.
Well, I wasn't quite sure, because then I was speaking to somebody from Daily Out, and he pronounced it Loelia, and I was like, have I been reading it? Because I always read it as Lelia as well.
Yeah, but I
used
to misread it totally. I thought it was Loella.
Oh.
I just misread it totally. But there you go.
So if you know how to pronounce her name, send us an email. Expect to talk.
Send us an email. You pronounce it like this, and you just write her name. That's going to be helpful.
It's like how do you pronounce Nice biscuits? I'm sure it's Nice, but my wife says it's Nice. Or my husband says it's Nice.
Yes. Yes, I think
All
it's
the while it's
NICE,
got NIC.
but she says it's NICE. Which one's right? Yes.
That's really funny. That makes me
It's a
laugh.
trick question though, because there's only one type of biscuit that exists.
Bourbon.
Bourbons!
Is it nice? Is it nice or is it nice?
Is it? Mind you, Becca managed to pronounce that bourbons on the first episode.
I was thinking of a drink.
Oh,
I think when we get our Twitter back, we should constantly have our birthday as the day bourbons were invented. The first time of bourbon biscuits were introduced to the world. That should be our birthday.
I'm looking it up.
Yeah,
Bourbon
How long
biscuits.
have they been
I
around?
doubt there's an exact date, and there could be.
Who are they invented by? McVitie's.
I don't know.
When were?
Bourbon biscuit is a sandwich style. But introduced in 1910, originally under the name Creola. But does it say when in 1910?
Well, we're guaranteed to be more than 13 years old.
Well, we've thrilled our listener base with that.
That bit of fact, bourbon biscuit.
Anyway, that's it for Bond for a while. And we did our usual not talk about the film that much. I hope we talked about it enough. But I think we talked about it as much as we could bear, to be honest.
If you want to hear us talk about it more, please listen to us on our Wicker Man.
Stay tuned when we do a Wicker Man episode. I mean, we could do a Wicker Man episode at some point.
Good opportunity to plug the Patreon.
The Patreon, yes.
Oh, we're doing Patreon now? Yes, we're doing Patreon.
We haven't worked out.
We're going to patronise you.
We haven't worked out the terms.
We're going to patronise
We are going to offer shows, commission shows. Basically, you can basically pay something. We don't know how much yet.
Yeah, offer your solutions how much you'd be happy with at the moment.
Yeah, 'cause at the moment it says like $10 or something. We're not doing a show for $10. That takes a piss.
Yeah, no, I mean like we've got a John where you can throw in like what, like $1, $3. I think I can't remember.
Yeah, we'd be happy with that as a donation. That would be terrific. I would not knock that level of donation, but we wouldn't do a commission show for $3 or $10.
No, I was thinking maybe more. I mean, what do you reckon? Maybe like $5 if you want like an actual episode of a particular film.
Oh, for an episode of a particular film, it would be much higher. The commentaries we did for charity were a lot higher than that. In dollar terms, they'd be close to like 80 or something like that.
I think somebody kindly donated 50, wasn't it?
We did them for charity. Now, I think with the Patreon, we'd probably split some. We'd keep some. We would keep some because you're kind enough to donate, and we do like buy things and do things. But I think if it's a charity one and we advertise it as a charity one, it all goes to charity. And in fact, when we've done those, the person who's bought them has paid direct to charity and shown us proof. So no money comes to us that way. And that's just the way we wanted it. Not that we aren't trusted, but no one can ever say, what did you do with that money then? Because we never saw it. I think if you were sending us money directly, the whole point is that you are giving us a gift of that money, so we would keep it and do something with it. But I think if we end up getting large sums of money to do shows, there's nothing to stop us giving a portion of it to charity. We haven't figured it out, is the bottom line.
I mean, I'm not figured out how Patreon actually works. I mean, can you just like go on and give us anything you want? I don't know. Or is it like always set up at a certain time?
I think you subscribe effectively. I think you can subscribe through Patreon. Now, the thing with Patreon then becomes, what do we give subscribers? So if you subscribe $5 a month or $3 a month or whatever you decided to do, there's got to be, that's lovely, but we've got to figure out some premium for you doing that. And I haven't worked out what that is yet. I don't know if that's early access. So Chris puts the show live to Patreon listeners on a Friday. I don't know. I haven't really figured it out yet, and Chris hasn't figured it out.
I thought maybe if they give like someone's give generally like a decent amount, they might do like a special show where we invite them on and then we can have like not just necessarily like have them on a regular show, but have a show where we.
I think what we want to make
get to hang out with us almost
where we've got a series. The series will either be the three of us or the four of us if it's a Charlie one, and that's it. That's non-negotiable. You can't buy yourself onto like a Captain America film because there won't be any guests on that. That's the three of us. We're not messing with our format.
No.
With the charity shows, for example, a guy really wanted us to do Police Academy, so we did. And then the same person wanted us to do Coming to America, so we did. So we're always open to things like that. And as a one-off, we could do something you might commission, but I think in that case we need to figure out the amount. We also need to figure out what, because it's pointless saying to us, I don't know, for example, it would be pointless saying to us, I'd really like you to cover Fast 5. Well, we'll cover Fast and Furious one day. So you're either going to have to find a series we're very unlikely to do, in which case like a long-running comedy series, or certain horror ones would be an example, because we're not going to do a lot of horror, I don't think. Or it might just be something where there's a commentary that we would not have done. So it's pointless asking for a Bond commentary. We'll do all of them at some point. But you may really want us to do a commentary on Star Trek, whatever one we didn't do, 6 or whatever one we didn't do, for example. So if it's a series that's long finished, you can ask for something from that. If it's a comedy show, or if it's your favourite film, or if it's non-franchise.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. If like just pick, you know what, it's not part of a franchise, but I'd really love to hear you do a show on that.
Let's pick an example. You might want us to do LA Confidential.
Yeah.
LA Confidential's not part of a franchise, nor does it fall into a series. Had Martin Scorsese made that film, then we might have said, well, that will go in with his other films like, Raging Bull or whatever. But it's not. It's a Curtis Hanson film. I don't think there'll be a Curtis Hanson series. Therefore, if you really wanted that to be done,
who's the writer though who did who keeps getting adapted? It's Elmer Leonard. Is it Elmer Leonard?
Elmer Leonard. He didn't write LA Confidential though. But Elmore Leonard, we're unlikely to do an Elmore Leonard series, so you might want us to do Get Shorty. These are just examples, but there are loads of films. The Usual Suspects. We're not going to do a Bryan Singer series. We might do the X-Men.
So we kind of do already the X-Men.
But we won't do but we're unlikely to do Valkyrie and whatever.
People.
And that sort of stuff. We're not likely to. So, if you've got a favourite film, for example, that's just non-franchise, which, funnily enough, most people's absolute favourite film is non-franchise. There are loads of examples where that isn't the case, but an awful lot of people, their favourite film is LA Confidential or, the same year, I'm not the biggest fan, but Titanic or something like that. If you want something like that, your best bet is to ask for something non-franchise or to ask for a series we'll never do. And you can always ask us, tweet us before you put in your request, or something where we finished the series and we didn't cover a commentary you might want to be done. And in that case, I think most of the time you're looking to buy us to do the show, but we are open to suggestions on big enough donations that we get a guest.
I think generally for that, maybe if you maybe $5 or
$5 to do a show strikes me as a little low.
Okay.
It does, because there's 3 of us and all our time and the prep and possibly getting hold of the films as well. We'll figure it out offline, but frankly, the commentary films, I was never going to reveal this because it wasn't fair to the person who donated, but in dollars, the charity films were very close to 3-figure. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
In dollars, they were very close to 3-figure. So regular people who want to sign up and pay us something monthly, like you might with the Slash Filmcast or something, that's different, and we need to figure out what the content might be, or what access we could give you, or what we could do for you. In terms of one-off shows, I think you're probably looking at a bigger donation.
Should we do the as its own Patreon feed?
Possibly. We'll figure that all out offline, but we just wanted to let you know it was there. But we're happy for it to be a dialogue because we haven't done this before. So what would you pay for? What would you expect? What would you expect for it?
What do you expect to pay us?
Realistically, if you did want us to do a podcast on your favourite film, what would you pay for it?
Yeah.
Because the consensus might come back, well, I wouldn't go any higher than £25 or $25 or whatever, and then we take it on board and think about it. The charity ones were different because they all go to charity, and I'm not going to do that cheap. For us, we're not looking to make a lot of money, so we probably would do it a bit cheaper.
Yeah.
But it is still
we're doing the show as normal anyway, but it's just in case you want to throw us a buck or two each month or whatever, or if you want something more specifically done,
I think the thing I would think of when you think about what you would pay us is, on the one hand, we don't need a massive amount because we're not looking to get rich out of this. But on the other hand, it can't interrupt our schedule.
Yeah.
So if we're doing Iron Man one week and The Incredible Hulk the next week, if someone says do LA Confidential and here's a load of money, that's in addition to. We're not going to keep all our listeners waiting just to do this one off.
Yeah.
So you're paying for like another 2 to 3 hours of our time to record, at least the same again for me to edit, probably about twice as long to edit. Then we've got to physically get hold of the film. Frankly, we'll probably torrent it, but that's not always possible. Sometimes you do have to buy a cheap copy or rent it or whatever.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe like rent it off. It'd be easy.
So you're looking at rental and our time. So you're looking at 3 of us renting it at least $250 each, and then you're looking at like 3 to 6 hours of our time each. So what would you pay for that? Have a think about it. Let us know. Tweet us. Talk to us. When we say tweet us, don't tweet us at Expect Us to Talk at the moment because that's down. We'll hope it'll be up not long after you hear this. In terms of social media, you can get me at the Pasty Kid 1976 on Twitter. Probably best to speak to me there at the moment.
Yeah, you can find me at Cinematronics on Twitter. You can find all the podcasts and all the old episodes at cinematronics.co.uk. And if you do want to throw us a buck or two, you can just go on Patreon. Do you expect us to talk? If you just Google that, you'll find it. I think it's Patreon expect us to talk. I think, but yeah, if you Google that, you should find it.
Becca, where can we find you apart from Expect Us to Talk? Because obviously that's not up at the minute.
No, if you really do want to tweet to me, I am at r_view movies. Bit weird, I might change that at some point.
Yeah, but you haven't in 3 years.
But I haven't, so it'll be there forevermore. And obviously you can email us, expectustotalk@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook. We're still on Facebook. They haven't cancelled us there yet. Also on YouTube as well.
Facebook.com/Expect Us to Talk.
Yep. And YouTube is the same. If you type in the search bar, do you expect us to talk? Also the same place on iTunes. If you go on iTunes and type in do you expect us to talk, you'll find us in there. And don't forget to give us a 5-star review. Pretty please, and make it a good review. Thank you. Just because we are great and stuff.
So talking of shit we throw out for free. Moving on to another series, and I'm really excited about this. I've started prepping already. Becca, what does that mean?
It means Do You Expect to Talk will return with the Marvel series, starting with Iron Man.